For a moment, I could almost hear them cheering. I believe it won't be long before. This entire space is covered in snowgrass. Once I finished up, Meng Anwen looked at me with a smirk. Aren't you curious about how your little girlfriends are doing? From what I've heard, Ning Yi, Mo Yun, and the others have teamed up to grind levels in some dungeons. In fact, they're currently at the dungeon hall of Xiaojing Academy. I knew exactly what he was hinting at. But ever since I learned the truth about that cataclysmic war from years ago, I felt a constant sense of urgency. I'm terrified that a disaster like that will happen again, especially with those otherworldly powerhouses appearing at the eternal battlefield. That feeling of urgency has only grown stronger. I know that getting stronger is the only way to handle these crises. So, I pushed aside the thought of visiting them. And without hesitation, I activated Antares' scale. There was a doubt in my mind that I needed to clear up. In the next second, I vanished from the spot. Watching me leave, Meng Anwen couldn't help but sigh. Just how much are you carrying on your shoulders? Right then, his communicator suddenly vibrated. Meng Anwen's expression shifted after reading it. A moment later, the Xinxia Tower whisked him away. Meanwhile, back at the eternal battlefield, Antares looked at me with curiosity. You kid, why are you back again? I told him I came here to verify something. I've noticed a strange problem over the last few days. While I was observing the growth of the Kunlun Snowgrass King, I felt like I entered some kind of special state. Not only did my soul level increase slightly, but I also touched upon a sliver of the laws. According to our human ancestors, the power of the laws can only be mastered at level 96. Yet, I've already encountered them at level 76. So, I suspect you don't necessarily have to reach level 96. As long as you can comprehend them early, you can master the laws. After explaining this, I looked at Antares and asked seriously, do you know what's going on here? Hearing this, Antares chuckled. Of course I know. There's nothing in this world that I don't know. Then, he struck a pose like a teacher giving a lecture. That state you were in is called epiphany, and you can grasp many profound truths at once. However, many people go their entire lives without experiencing it once. You've got some pretty good luck, kid. The laws you touched upon were likely comprehended during that epiphany. But epiphany is just a key. The rest is up to your own understanding. As for whether you must be level 96 to master the laws, that's just a threshold your humans set for themselves. Because once a person reaches level 96, their soul power undergoes a qualitative leap. A level 96 soul simply finds it much easier to comprehend them. His words confirm my previous guess. So, as long as I can encounter the laws again, I have a chance to master them, even if the difficulty is incredibly high. Antares immediately shot down my theory that it was just about the difficulty. He explained that manipulating laws requires soul support. If your soul isn't strong enough, trying to force a law into action, at best, you'll be severely injured, and at worst, your soul will be annihilated. Level 96 is exactly the point where one can typically handle laws. However, his dragon clan has many ways to break this limit, allowing them to use laws as early as level 90. As long as you don't overdo it, the impact isn't too bad. He added that humans can also use the soul dividing technique. Antares gave me a glare. He told me that this is an art, not some common skill you find on every street corner. Essentially, it is a soul skill, created after you merge a skill into your soul. Outside this world, they are known as arts. Even the strongest common skill has its limits. But an art can be improved indefinitely. This is because an art can contain the laws of the universe, which is exactly why they are called arts. Even my primordial runes became an art once I mastered them permanently. Through Antares, I finally learned a bit about the outside world. Now that you understand the difference between skills and arts, you should realize what kind of existence the soul-calming art really is. Antares said in a heavy tone, and it is clearly incredibly powerful. But suddenly, a problem occurred to me. Skills are the predecessors of techniques. But our skills only awaken after we reach a certain level. That means skills are already inside of us. So naturally, we can't just learn them from the outside. So, does that mean I can't learn this soul-calming art either? Antares suddenly burst out laughing. You're usually such a smart guy. So why are you suddenly acting so dumb? What's the point of the primordial rune? Hearing that, it finally clicked. How could I have forgotten about that? The primordial rune itself is an external object, yet it has become one of my skills. Then with Antares' power, he definitely has a way to teach me the soul-calming art. Seeing the realization on my face, Antares continued, but how much of it you actually master, and whether you can turn it into your own technique, that depends entirely on your own level. The dragon race and the abyss had actually teamed up to attack the human world, and even Meng Anwen and his group were tricked into entering the abyss. Meanwhile, I just happened to be receiving Antares' inheritance to allow me to use the power of laws ahead of time. Antares immediately began teaching me the secret arts of the dragon race. A beam of light shot from its dragon eyes and landed right on my forehead. Suddenly, a point of light appeared within my soul. Then, that point of light began to expand rapidly. It was evolving into a skill star core. Your soul world is certainly a lively place. Antares' voice echoed in my mind. Besides those, there were 2 divine sparks and 2 divine seats. The scepter of creation and the monarch scepter were also there. Meanwhile, my soul's main body was entwined by a 9-colored dragon soul. Anyone else would be absolutely shocked to see this. But Antares just looked on with disdain. What is all this garbage in your soul world? What use are these low-level divine sparks? And those 2 divine seats are just trash. The scepter of the god of life is passable, but it is still just mediocre gear. The other scepter is actually a bit interesting. It seems slightly better than the scepter of creation. Too bad it is damaged. Suddenly, Antares let out a small sound of surprise. Why is that guy Kunlun's aura inside the demon extermination tower of your Xinxiao Empire? I knew he was talking about the Kunlun great god, and explained how I was cultivating the Kunlun Snowgrass King. Nice idea, but what's the point of growing this thing? Antares still looked completely unimpressed. But for humans, this stuff is actually quite valuable. Suddenly, Antares' tone became serious. He warned me, let me give you a piece of advice. You must never use things like this. Otherwise, you'll only be destroying your own future. Confused, I asked him why. Antares remained solemn. Using external items to boost your power will damage your foundation. If your only goal is to become a super god, then it doesn't matter. But if you want to explore higher realms of existence, you can only rely on yourself. I asked if I couldn't use any external help at all. Antares shook his head at my question. It's not that simple. It depends on the effect and the level of the item. Take your 9-colored dragon soul crystal, for example. That's also an external item. But it only brings you benefits with no downside. But things like the Kunlun Snowgrass King that force a level increase are like pulling up seedlings to make them grow faster. My heart skipped a beat hearing this. Luckily, I had the willpower to resist using it when I was at the Kunlun Divine Palace. Meanwhile, in my soul world, the orb of light Antares sent and had fully formed. It looked very similar to a skill star core, shimmering with countless runes, though it was a bit more ethereal than a real skill core. Antares spoke softly. This is the soul calming art. You can use this to comprehend and learn the technique. Once you've fully mastered it, and eventually become a part of you. By the way, how were you able to sense the laws back then? He told me to try and recreate the scene, to see if I could still feel the laws. Then, Antares explained the purpose of the soul dividing technique. At its most basic level, it allows you to split off a sliver of your soul. Before reaching level 96, wielding laws can cause a backlash. This split soul acts as a shield, taking the brunt of that backlash for the main body. Even if this sliver is destroyed, it only causes minimal damage to the original soul. As long as I don't split off too many of them, the impact on my main soul won't be too great. However, mastering the soul dividing technique isn't easy. The key is multitasking. I had to recreate the scene to comprehend the laws, while simultaneously trying to master the technique. Doing it this way provides a huge advantage in learning it. Once the soul is split, it's like controlling 2 souls at once, which requires an incredibly high level of soul control. Following Antares' method, I began to multitask. I merged a portion of my soul power into the demon extermination tower, entering the space where the Kunlun Snowgrass King was growing, while the other part of my soul focused on mastering the soul dividing technique. Meanwhile, in the origin battlefield, thousands of kilometers away from Fortress 9, stood a massive gateway. Abyssal energy surged violently within it, and terrifying roars occasionally echoed from the darkness. This gateway was the entrance to the Abyss world, and the connection point between the origin battlefield and the Abyss. Huge numbers of Abyss demons were roaming around, charging toward the primordial battlefield every now and then. Right then, several figures flew in from the distance. Mang Anwen and a few other god-level experts arrived at the Abyss entrance. Their sheer presence unleashed a massive wave of power, sending demons screaming in every direction to escape. In the blink of an eye, the demons near the entrance were either slaughtered or driven away. The reason Mang Anwen and his group showed up so aggressively was because a palace had appeared here 2 days ago. This palace was filled with pure light elements, and it had killed quite a few demons when it first appeared. Later, the demon emperor stepped in and dragged the palace into the Abyss world. According to the reports from that time, the palace had tried to resist, but it was ultimately no match for the demon emperor's power. Old Bai and Old Yin happened to be at Fortress 8 at the time, and they rushed over as soon as they heard the news. After all, that palace might be related to the light god. Meng Anwen grew worried after hearing Feng Xiu's account. It absolutely cannot fall into the hands of the abyss. Because according to the limited records we have, the light god was an ally to our human race when the abyss demons first descended. That is why his inheritance palace appeared in the human world. Meng Anwen immediately activated the Xinxia Tower to scan the surroundings, making sure not to miss a single clue. But in the end, he could only detect the lingering sense of Bai Yuan and Old Yen. Based on those traces, it seemed they had both entered the abyss world. Meng Anwen immediately shared this with everyone, and their expressions changed the moment they heard the news. But getting out is nearly impossible. Everyone was hesitant. After thinking for a moment, Meng Anwen spoke softly. I suspect there is something unusual about the appearance of the Light Temple this time. After all, it has been gone for nearly 1,000 years. So why suddenly reappear now? And how did the Demon Emperor find out about the palace so quickly? Plus, Bai Yuan just happened to sense the aura of the Light Temple. Everything about this feels wrong. It is as if the whole thing was carefully orchestrated. After a brief silence, Meng Anwen continued. At this point, I have no choice but to enter the abyss myself to find out the truth. Feng Xiu looked worried, warning him that the abyss world was far too dangerous. Don't worry, I have the Xinxia Tower. And right now, I am the only one who can bring Bai and Yin back. Meng Anwen stated firmly. Before leaving, he told the others to prepare for war. He told them that if anything went wrong, they should activate the Eternal Great Wall immediately. Hearing this, Feng Xiu let out a gasp of surprise. I hope I'm just overthinking things. But according to the intel I got earlier, the Abyss Demons and the Dragon Clan had a falling out. Yet now, there's no sign of the Dragon Clan anywhere. Plus, I detected a trace of their aura right here. I'm afraid those dragon bastards are planning something. After saying that, he put away the Xinxia Tower and dove straight into the Abyss Vortex. The others didn't linger around either. Following Meng Anwen's orders, they headed back to the fortress to prepare. Soon, every fortress entered a state of combat readiness. As the first line of defense against the Abyss, Fortress 9 was on high alert. Suddenly, a piercing alarm rang out. The demon-watching eye emitted a towering red light. Enemies were invading. A massive army of the Dragon Clan was closing in fast. I could feel the aura of Dragon Kings rising from the army. And it wasn't just one. Every single fortress had a Dragon King descending upon it. The god-level powerhouses of the Xinxia Empire were mobilized one after another. The Dragon Clan wasn't just attacking the Xinxia Empire this time. Other nations were suffering through the war as well. Some smaller countries collapsed the moment they were hit. Looking at the army gathered outside the fortress, Feng Xiu's expression became grim. Feng Xiu looked grim. It turns out Meng Anwen was right after all. The Abyss and the Dragon Clan have actually teamed up. Dragon warships lined up across the sky, unleashing a rain of attacks upon the fortress. Fortunately, the Eternal Great Wall had been activated. The defense system the Xinxia Empire spent millennia building was indestructible, standing firm despite the relentless bombardment. At the same time, massive war machines rose from within the fortress. These had never been seen before, and are only deployed once the Eternal Great Wall is active, integrating perfectly with the wall's formations. They began a frantic counterattack. Compared to other nations that collapsed instantly, the Xinxia Empire truly showed its overwhelming power. We didn't show an ounce of fear in the face of the aggressive dragon army. But as Feng Xiu watched the battle unfold, there was no joy on his face. He was worried about the safety of Meng Anwen and the others. It was obvious that the Temple of Light appeared specifically to lure them into the abyss. Without the intervention of a half-step super god, Meng Anwen and his two companions were the strongest among the humans. If anything happened to them, it would be a devastating blow to humanity. Meanwhile, at the eternal battlefield, Antares suddenly sensed something. He gazed through the void toward a specific direction, and quickly witnessed everything happening on the battlefield. How interesting. The demons actually teamed up with the Dragon Clan. Then, he shifted his gaze toward the Abyss world. He let out a soft hum when he spotted Bai Yuan and the others. Why did those three little guys enter the Abyss? With their strength, they're likely in grave danger. Usually, he wouldn't bother with something like this. As long as his bottom line wasn't crossed, he wouldn't interfere. But this time, things were different. His gaze fell upon me. Should I tell this brat? If I don't, he'll probably blame me later. After some thought, Antares decided to let me in on it. It was time to move, to rescue Meng Anwen and the others trapped in the abyss. I began attempting to take control of the god fortresses left behind on the ancient battlefield. So, he connected to my soul world once again. At that moment, with the help of the soul dividing technique, my understanding of the laws had already started to bear fruit. That feeling from before came rushing back. Gradually, the aura of the law of life began to permeate my soul once more. When Antares entered my soul world for the second time, he couldn't help but be shocked by the sight. This kid really is a genius. Antares has incredibly high standards. Over the thousands of years, the so-called geniuses of the human race were nothing in his eyes. Yet, my performance actually made him use the word genius for the first time. Even he had to admire my ability to comprehend. It had only been about a day, and I had not only mastered the basic use of the soul-dividing technique, but I had also gained my own insights into the laws. Keep in mind, my own level was only 76. Yet I had managed to grasp laws that others usually only understand at level 96. No one in this world had ever achieved this before. But at that moment, Antares had to interrupt my meditation. As a dragon's roar echoed through my soul world, my consciousness was instantly pulled back. I didn't blame Antares for interrupting my enlightenment, because I knew it must be something urgent. My expression changed instantly, and I instinctively pulled out the Abyss teleportation stone to activate it. I knew the Abyss wasn't a place you could just enter whenever you wanted. Mang Anwen and the others didn't have a teleportation stone, so they couldn't enter and leave the Abyss as freely as I could. Even if the Xinxia Tower had teleportation capabilities, they would be heavily restricted inside the Abyss. Not to mention, there are countless demons there, enough to pose a serious threat to Mang Anwen and the others. But just then, Antares stopped my teleportation. Don't rush, they are fine for now. Besides, going there now wouldn't help. Can you stop the Demon Emperor? Antares' words calmed me down instantly. But at the same time, I felt something was off. Why would my teachers enter the Abyss in the first place? I looked at Antares and asked seriously. It seems to be related to the Temple of Light. And then the Demon Emperor personally dragged the temple into the Abyss. I was shocked, and my mind began to race. In human history, the Light God once helped humanity overcome a great crisis. But she paid a massive price for that one act. That is why the human race has always viewed the Light God as a close ally. It is just that there has been total silence from the Light God's palace. The palace of the Light God had always been nowhere to be found. Now that the Temple of Light has appeared, Mang Anwen and the others will surely head into the Abyss to investigate. I managed to piece everything together in the blink of an eye, and analyzed even more information. Thinking of this, a murderous intent filled my eyes. I do not know if this Temple of Light is real or fake, but I am certain this is a scheme by the Demon Emperor. Its goal is to lure me into the Abyss world. They both dream of killing me. I found myself in a dilemma. Even though the three of them are already level 96 high-level gods, and can wield the power of laws, they have almost no chance of winning against the Demon Emperor. But a half-step super god has already mastered them. Although both involve using laws, wielding and mastering them are two completely different levels. Even if I go, I am not confident I can win. Even if I use all my trump cards, or even detonate the corpse of the Venom God, I still cannot pose a threat to the Demon Emperor. Antares looked at me with a knowing smirk. It clearly had a solution in mind, but it did not tell me. Because in its eyes, me solving this on my own is also a form of growth. My thoughts raced as I desperately searched for a way to deal with the Demon Emperor. After ruling out every possibility one by one, I finally got my answer, so I immediately asked Antares to send me to the Xinxia ancient city in the lower space. Antares looked satisfied when it heard my request. It had always believed that I was smarter than it was. After I left, a cruel glint appeared in Antares' eyes. Don't worry, kid. With me around, no one can touch you. Once I arrived at the Xinxia ancient city, I headed straight for the ancient Thunder Tower. Less than a minute after I entered the tower, the city's alarm suddenly blared. I saw two dark clouds approaching from the distance. One was the Dragon Army, and the other was the Demon Legion. There were even god-level auras radiating from their ranks. Seeing this, the city commander, Feng Yiming, turned pale. He immediately issued a series of orders, and the entire Xinxia ancient city went into a state of war. By then, I had already reached the core of the inner ancient Thunder Tower. I took out the outer tower. As soon as it appeared, it resonated with the core, and the inner tower can control the entire Pearl God Fortress. However, with my current abilities, that is why I only intend to borrow a portion of its power. Back when I was still weak, I once relied on the power of the Thunder Tower to repel the Demon Emperor's finger. Now, I am far stronger than I was back then. My soul has reached the god level as well. If I can harness the power of the god-slaying fortress, I might actually have a chance to go head-to-head with the Demon Emperor in the Abyss. This is the only solution I can think of. Just as the core of the Thunder Tower began to resonate with the outer tower, the surrounding lightning suddenly surged. Relying on my immunity to lightning elements, I tried to force the two to connect in one go. The original blue light instantly turned purple. Even worse, this purple lightning contained the power of laws. Then, a sharp pain pierced through my soul. I knew this was a test. A trial from the core of the Thunder Tower. If I cannot endure this, it means I am not qualified to earn its recognition, let alone dream of using its power. My soul power began to drain rapidly. Even though my soul level is close to 93, and I have a 76-fold recovery rate from my divinity, I still could not keep up with the rate of consumption. At this rate, it would not be long before my soul was completely exhausted. But in the midst of my struggle against these laws, I suddenly thought of a way to break the deadlock. I would use my soul-dividing technique to comprehend the laws within the lightning. So, I immersed myself in meditation once again. Meanwhile, in the Abyss world, Meng Anwen, Bai Yuan, and Yin Guangxing are trapped inside a barrier. Outside, several powerful demon kings are launching relentless attacks against them. Just as everyone was hoping for reinforcements from the human world, the three pillars of the Xinxia Empire find themselves trapped in the Abyss. Fortunately, the Xinxia Tower is holding up against their attacks. However, Bai Yuan and Yin Guangxing look pale, and their wounds are still being corroded by the power of laws. It turns out that before Meng Anwen even found them, they had already been severely injured by a group of high-level demon kings. The Temple of Light has also completely vanished. It was only after Meng Anwen arrived that they realized they had been tricked. The demon kings had set up this barrier long ago. Even the Xinxia Tower cannot teleport them out of here. Bai Yuan is filled with regret. It was my impulsiveness. When we saw the Temple of Light being pulled into the abyss by the Demon Emperor, we acted without thinking and followed them in. I never expected we would fall right into their trap. But now that you are here, Meng, I refuse to believe these demon lords can stop us. They might not be able to stop us, but the Demon Emperor certainly can. If I am not mistaken, this entire scheme was orchestrated by the Demon Emperor himself. Meng Anwen's words crushed their last shred of hope. If that is the case, we will at least take a few demon kings down with us before we go. Our lives certainly do not matter. What matters is that we are not the Demon Emperor's true target. His real target must be Lin Moyu. Hearing this, Bai Yuan and Yin Guangxing were visibly shocked. I hope Lin Moyu never finds out about our situation. That way, he will not come here, but Meng Anwen dismissed their hope. Even if he does not know, the Demon Emperor will find a way to make him aware. Bai Yuan's eyes flashed with a murderous glint. If we take these demon kings down with us right now, Meng Anwen let out a long sigh. It is useless, even if we all die here. The Demon Emperor will not let the news of our death spread. Lin Moyu will still come. Our communication devices have lost their signal here again. Hearing this, Bai Yuan and Yin Guangxing looked at each other in silence. For a moment, they could not think of any useful solution. Meanwhile, in the lower space of the eternal battlefield, an army of over 100,000 demon dragons launched a fierce assault on the ancient city of Xinxia. Feng Yiming immediately sent out a distress signal to the human world. At the same time, he ordered all the soldiers in the ancient city to stay inside and not venture out, because the demon and dragon armies had god-level powerhouses leading them. If our professionals went out to fight, they would just be throwing their lives away. Fortunately, the defensive formation of the Xinxia ancient city was strong enough. However, maintaining this formation required a massive amount of energy crystals. The stored energy would eventually run out. Besides, the Demon Emperor and Dragon Emperor had not even made a move yet. Feng Yiming could only hope that I would finish my task quickly, as long as I could control the ancient Thunder Tower to unleash the Pearl God Lightning. It would not matter even if there were no God-level reinforcements. But as time ticked by, there was still no sign of reinforcements. Feng Yiming's expression grew increasingly grim. He knew what the activation of the Eternal Great Wall meant. It was very likely that the human world was also under immense pressure. He was now pinning his only hope on me. Half an hour had passed since the battle began. The energy crystal reserves in the ancient city had already been depleted by half. While Feng Yiming was worried, he was also calculating the odds. If the Demon Emperor and Dragon Emperor did not act, they could only stay in the lower space for at most an hour. As long as we could hold out until they left, there was still a chance to turn the tide. But just then, a massive ball of green fire descended from the sky. One of the Demon Emperors had finally lost its patience and made a move. It summoned abyss flames and smashed them against the ancient city's protective barrier. The barrier was instantly distorted by the impact, and the energy consumption increased dramatically. Because once a Demon King makes a move, the time it can stay in the lower realm is drastically reduced. However, it will unleash its most powerful attack before being forcibly teleported away. In just a few minutes, it had already exhausted 30% of its reserves. Suddenly, a space-time rift appeared. The demon king that attacked was teleported away by the laws of the lower realm. Fear, pure fear. The first thing I did upon entering the abyss was to strike terror into the hearts of countless demon kings. The demon kings besieging the ancient city of Xinxiao went all out to break through the formation shield. Even risking being cast out by the laws, they were willing to use their strongest methods. But the first demon king to attack was quickly driven out by the laws. Before the ancient city's captain could even catch his breath, an attack far more powerful than before suddenly came crashing down. This time it was a dragon king making the move. Feng Yiming's face turned incredibly grim. He had already guessed the enemy army had to have more than 1 or 2 demon kings and dragon kings. If they took turns attacking, the ancient city's energy reserves probably wouldn't be enough to sustain the defensive formation. Thinking this, Feng Yiming raised his longsword high. The next second, all kinds of buffs washed over the professionals in the city. Fight to the death! Fight to the death! The human professionals roared in unison. Their fighting spirit surged. Just then a bolt of lightning fell from the sky and exploded in midair. The entire heavens and earth shook violently. Space itself shattered as if it were the end of the world. 3 seconds later, everything went still again. The dragon clan and the demon army had vanished. Everyone present was stunned. No one knew where that purple bolt of lightning had come from. Only Feng Yiming knew it was my doing. He just never expected the god-slaying lightning I unleashed this time would be so strong. Back in the ancient tower, I looked a little worn out. Because that last bolt of god-slaying lightning had some of the laws mixed into it. Drawing on the laws ahead of time had left me suffering a backlash. Luckily, I'd used the soul-dividing technique to split off a sliver of my soul to take the hit. So I only ended up with a minor injury. With the 9-colored dragon soul crystal constantly cycling soul energy to heal me. These small wounds would be gone before long. Remembering the power of that god-slaying lightning strike I'd just unleashed, I felt like I actually had a shot at the Demon Emperor now. Maybe not quite as strong, but at least enough to put up a fight. So I activated the Abyss Teleport Stone right away and vanished from the ancient Thunder Tower. Before long, I arrived in the Abyss world, and immediately took out the Teleport Stone to sense for a direction. Since this stone was made by Meng Anwen himself, it carried his personal imprint, so I could use it to sense his general location. After focusing carefully, I pinned down the exact direction, and released my lightning undead wings to fly there at full speed. But my movements quickly caught the attention of the demons nearby. Judging by their reactions, they seemed shocked to see a human. After all, in their eyes, we humans should be back in the real world stressing over finding a job. I never did understand why they thought it was so hard for humans to land a good job. A human daring to fly through the abyss. He's asking to die. The demons roared and charged straight at me. Suddenly the sky turned pitch black. A projection of the third world suddenly descended. The undead I materialized in the sky. The demons chasing me all dropped out of the air. A huge swath of demons in the city died on the spot. Wherever it passed, every demon's soul was annihilated. This was just a small city. There weren't any powerful demons in it. Nobody could withstand the soul attack from the undead gaze. Before I even got close, a barrier had already gone up around it. Massive numbers of demons slowly rose into the air. At the same time, a dense legion of undead appeared at my side. Over 100,000 skeletons carrying thick death energy charged straight at the city. Behind them, a skeleton throne appeared. The Skeleton King unleashed his skill, Godslayer. The blade of light tore through the barrier instantly. Countless demons were wiped out on the spot. The Undead Legion surged into the city through the smoke of the explosions. Before long, not a single soul survived in the whole demon city. I didn't feel a shred of sympathy for demons. Throughout history, demons had invaded the human world many times. Countless humans had been killed because of it. These demons weren't even enough to cover the interest on that debt. Right now I just treated it like clearing out a giant dungeon. Killing them still gave me a huge amount of experience. And the demon lords were the bosses of each stage in the dungeon. As for the Demon Emperor, he's the final boss of this whole arc. On my first day in the Abyss world, I swept through several royal cities. But just as I was about to kill 6 high demon kings, the Abyss Lord hiding in the shadows finally made his move against me. It turned out that after I entered the Abyss world, I started treating the entire Abyss world like one giant dungeon. Every demon city in my path got destroyed. My experience points were skyrocketing too. But at the same time, my rampage caught the attention of the demon kings. A low demon king ambushed me along the way, but he ended up getting one shot killed by a single skill from the Skeleton King. At this point, only a high demon king might actually be able to stop me. Word of my rampage through the Abyss world spread fast. The succubus queen I'd fought before also got the news. She knew this whole thing was a setup orchestrated by the Demon Emperor and the Dragon Emperor together. But she had no intention of trying to stop me, because she figured that with the one from the eternal battlefield backing me, even the Demon Emperor and Dragon Emperor joining forces couldn't take me out. By now I'd followed the guidance on the teleport stone for thousands of miles, and I could finally sense the presence of Meng Anwen and the other two. But at the same time, I also sensed the presence of Demon Kings. 6 of them in total, and every one a high demon. Without a second thought, I charged straight at them. Meanwhile, Bai Yuan and the other 2 were attacking the barrier like crazy. But even with all 3 of them combining their strength, they still couldn't break it. After all, they'd only recently become high gods, and their command over the laws was still relatively weak. The barrier, on the other hand, was being held up by 6 high demon kings. Each one of them was no weaker than Meng Anwen and the others. But instead of killing them, the demons were just surrounding Meng Anwen's group, holding them there. The intention behind it was pretty obvious. Meng Anwen's face suddenly changed. The moment Bai Yuan and Yin Quanxing heard that I had come, they immediately looked worried. "What do we do?" Bai Yuan roared, slamming his fists into the barrier again and again. But it did nothing. If anything, the barrier's backlash only made his injuries worse. Meng Anwen gave a low shout. Panicking wouldn't help at this point. Their only chance was to find an opening and break the barrier from both sides with me. Right at that moment, I arrived with my Undead Legion. My arrival immediately drew the attention of all 6 high demon lords. They all sneered at me. Everything had gone smoothly with the plan so far. It was time to let the Demon Emperor know. But the Demon Emperor had already made arrangements for my life and death. All they had to do was kill Meng Anwen and the other 2. Suddenly, one of the demon lords cried out in shock. "What is that?" Its gaze locked onto me. A crystal carrying the aura of law had appeared in my hand. After sensing it carefully, the demon lords were all stunned. As high demon lords themselves, they knew the laws intimately. They knew perfectly well that mastering the power of the law required reaching level 95. But now that power had shown up in the hands of someone barely level 76. What they didn't know was that what I held was the Lightning God's Law Crystal. By then my soul had already locked onto them. I triggered Corpse Explosion in an instant. The Law Crystal in my hand shattered at once. It could deal 1,600% of the corpse's max health as damage to anything within 8 kilometers. The effect matched the Lightning God's full power in life. Maybe even exceeded it. The Lightning God had once been a supreme deity, after all. He'd only been suppressed and knocked down to high god rank during the Great War of that era. And that Law Crystal I just used was the crystallization of his entire life's power, condensed right before his death. The instant I unleashed the skill, all 6 high demon kings felt a bad feeling wash over them at once. But it was already too late. Purple lightning charged with the power of law exploded right in front of their eyes. Their bodies were blown nearly in half, left clinging to half a life, and the sight left Meng Anwen and the other 2 completely stunned. They never imagined I could possibly be this strong. Shocked, all 3 of them gathered their strength and struck the barrier at once. With the 6 demon kings no longer holding it up, the barrier shattered with a boom. At the same time, I detonated another law crystal. The 6 demon kings, already badly wounded, went pale with shock. Even though they immediately threw up their strongest defensive skills, the lightning still blasted through and left them on the brink of death. One more hit, and they'd surely die. But just as I pulled out a 3rd law crystal, an angry roar rang out across the sky. Enough. A massive hand suddenly appeared in the air. It scooped up all 6 demon kings at once. The giant hand carried terrifying power within it. It tore a rift straight through the sky. My soul sense could no longer lock onto them. Only one being in the world could pull off something like this. Needless to say, it had to be the Demon Emperor. I flew fast toward Meng Anwen and the others. "Teachers, are you all right?" The 3 of them looked grim. 6 high demon kings were nothing. Even though I could badly wound a high demon king, that didn't mean I could beat the Demon Emperor. Its voice echoed across heaven and earth. "Dragon Emperor, I've done what needed doing. The rest is up to you." A dragon's roar suddenly rang out from the void. Good. The Demon Emperor's giant hand gripped the 6 demon kings and tore off through the sky. Only then did I realize. It wasn't the Demon Emperor who'd come to deal with me. It was the Dragon Emperor. The Dragon Emperor had actually come to the Abyss world. "What a surprise," I said quietly. "Teachers, get into my demon extermination tower," I said softly. Meng Anwen asked, "Then what about you?" I told him not to worry, I could handle it. He himself would be completely useless. Just how strong was a half-step supreme god, anyway? The higher your own level, the more clearly you understood it. Between level 96 and a Dragon Emperor or Demon Emperor pushing level 99. The gap was like the distance between heaven and earth. They chose to trust me. Mang Anwen put away the Xinxia Tower, then climbed into my Demon Extermination Tower. I immediately drew the tower into my soul world. At that point, I finally let out a breath of relief. I had taken back the initiative. I could fight if I wanted to fight, and leave if I wanted to leave. As far as I was concerned, the Demon Emperor and Dragon Emperor's plan had already failed. The surroundings suddenly went dead silent. Space itself had been cut off and locked down. The Abyss teleport stones had stopped working, but Antares' dragon scale could still be used if I wanted to leave, since they had gone through so much trouble to summon me over. A dragon's roar rang out through the sky again. I looked up and saw a divine dragon circling overhead. It was a phantom image, the kind that only appeared once a dragon clan's atavistic bloodline had been awakened. The Dragon Emperor's overwhelming aura rolled toward me, pressing down hard. It felt like it wanted to grind me to dust. It was almost an unrivaled existence at the half-step super god rank. But to me, it was nothing more than a mixed blood dragon. Not even part of the true dragon clan. Completely unrecognized. Antares didn't even want to dig into their origins. Utterly disdainful, inside the divine dragon phantom. The Dragon Lord stood over 5 meters tall, its body massive. Its eyes carried a killing edge. Lin Moyu, you deserve to die. Ever since I blew up the Dragon Emperor's palace, it had wanted nothing more than to grind me to bone and ash. Everything that happened after only deepened the grudge between us. Depends if you've got the guts to kill me, mixed blood dragon. I sneered, and the outer ancient thunder tower appeared in my hand. The inner and outer towers crossed the void and connected to each other. Overwhelming energy poured in from the demon-slaying fortress and flowed into the outer tower. It was, after all, a proud dragon emperor. Yet here I was calling it a mixed blood dragon. The power of law surged and churned around its body. It was, after all, a near super god level existence. I'd already started trying to master the laws. Wielding a law and mastering a law are completely different things. Wielding a law just means using it to boost my own combat power. It leaves my own mark on it, sure. But at this stage, the law still belongs to heaven and earth. I'm just a user of it, not an owner. Mastering a law means claiming it as my own. I become the master of the law itself, free to use it however I want. That way, not only does its power increase massively, not only did the power increase dramatically, but the mark itself became far deeper. Even if I was immune to a certain element, I would still take damage. Just a lot weaker. Half-step quasi-god meant going beyond mastering the laws and reaching the stage of truly commanding them. Combat power far beyond a high-tier god. To pull that off, you needed at least peak level 98. Zhang Yi had been at that stage before he fell. The Dragon Emperor and Demon Emperor were even stronger. One more step, and it was full-level quasi-god. It wanted to see the look of terror on my face. It was more convinced than ever that victory was already in hand. Not the least bit worried that I might run. No matter how clever I was still only level 76. So what was there to fear, even if I called it a mongrel dragon? Even furious as it was. It didn't strike right away, but it was in for disappointment. I wasn't scared in the slightest. Instead, I looked at it like it was a clown. The Dragon Emperor felt a flicker of unease. You're not afraid? I sneered at him, unimpressed. Afraid of what? Afraid of a mixed blood dragon like you? You'll get true recognition from the dragon race. Once you leave this tiny dragon realm, what are you even worth out there? Do you dare confront Antares about it? My words stabbed into the Dragon Emperor's heart like needles. The Dragon Emperor's pressure surged again. It bore down on me like an invisible mountain. A white light flickered over my body. I kept passing the invisible pressure onto my undead army. The pressure wasn't just from outside. It came from the soul as well. But my soul power had never been weak to begin with. And with the 9-colored dragon soul crystal backing me up, deep within the abyss, the Demon Emperor watched the whole scene unfold. A cold look crossed his face. I knew I wasn't wrong. I have no ordinary connection to it. With it on my side, who could touch me? That idiot Dragon Emperor has no idea. His anger has clouded his judgment. I was right about everything. A mixed blood dragon is a mixed blood dragon. But it wouldn't lift a finger itself. The Demon Emperor sent out 6 high demon lords. They surrounded Mang Anwen and the other 2 without killing them. Killing me was left to the Dragon Emperor. It wasn't that the Demon Emperor didn't want me dead. It just didn't dare. And it turned out to be right. Die. It snarled, and the power of law crashed down. The force was so immense it felt like the sky and earth were about to collapse. Space itself split apart into cracks. I didn't back down an inch. You're not qualified to kill me, I said. The 9-pearl lightning tower blazed with dazzling light. A bolt of violet lightning shot up from its spire and tore into the sky. Lightning burst out and shattered great stretches of the void. a soul-slaying lightning infused with the power of law. I still hadn't reached the level of truly mastering law. Even wielding it at all was a struggle for me. But I had the lightning tower. That kind of power was staggering. Now, through the link between the inner and outer towers, that power was flowing into me without end. My power was no weaker than the Dragon Emperor's attack. Both of our forces collided in that confined space. A terrifying force slammed into me. I rode the momentum and stepped back. At the same time, my face turned faintly, almost imperceptibly pale. That last strike had relied on the ancient Thunder Tower's control over the law itself. But the backlash of that law was still something I had to bear myself. I used the soul dividing technique to split off a strand of soul, and it was destroyed on the spot. I was slightly wounded. But on the surface, I still acted like nothing had happened. At this moment, there was no way I would let the Dragon Emperor see anything was wrong. He couldn't believe I was able to unleash an attack like that. I told you, you can't kill me. My eyes carried a trace of mockery. The ancient Thunder Tower in my hand lit up again. Purple lightning coiled around the tower's body, crackling and hissing. This unassuming little tower kept pouring out the power of the lightning law without end. Even if the Dragon Emperor refused to admit it, that last strike had carried real power. His eyes narrowed. What is this thing? He had never personally visited the ancient city of Xinxia, never laid eyes on the ancient Thunder Tower himself. So he couldn't recognize this tower. And that Pearl God lightning just now had been devastating. It was actually a match for the Dragon Emperor. At most it was close to a high-tier Demon King's full-strength strike. That was basically its peak power without invoking a law. But now the Executioner Lightning had a law woven into it. Its power had become terrifyingly strong. It had already surpassed high-tier God rank. It could already contend with a half-step Supreme God. The Demon Emperor sensed, faintly, that something was wrong. The problem wasn't with me. It was with the ancient Thunder Tower. This ancient city was deeply unusual. Its gaze grew complicated. I was only level 76 right now, even if my soul was extraordinarily strong. If I waited until I reached God rank, and then commanded the ancient Thunder Tower again, that might actually pose a threat to it. In that instant, the Demon King wanted to strike, to wipe me out with a bolt of thunder. But then it suddenly remembered Antares, that unbeatable presence standing behind me. The Demon Emperor shuddered, a cold chill running through it. It didn't dare move again. It still didn't want to die. It had lived too many years to be stupid enough to throw its own life away. Its head stayed perfectly cool. But the Dragon Emperor, caught right in the middle of it, wasn't nearly as calm. It let out roar after roar. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Its throwback bloodline activated in the middle of its roar. A phantom of a divine dragon rose into the sky. The Dragon Emperor launched another attack. The divine dragon's shadow lunged straight down at me. It looked ready to swallow me whole. I wasn't afraid at all. I raised the tower with one hand and pointed a finger. The ancient tower fired off another purple Pearl God lightning bolt. A thunderous boom echoed across the sky. The void of the abyss world shattered into pieces under the Pearl God lightning. Neither side could gain the upper hand. In the flash of lightning, I was knocked back again. My face went pale for a moment, then returned to normal in an instant. Another fragment of my divided soul was destroyed. Given how strong my soul was right now, destroying my divided soul 5 times in a row in a short span was already my limit. Any more than that, and it would damage my very foundation. Lightning filled the sky and blocked the Dragon Emperor's view. It never noticed anything was wrong with me. Impossible. This is impossible. I'll kill you. The Dragon Emperor kept roaring. My expression shifted slightly. I unleashed the god-slaying lightning again. I hardened my resolve. Refusing to show any weakness, my purple Pearl God lightning carried the same overwhelming power of the lightning law. It roared and clashed against the Dragon Emperor's attack once more. The Dragon Emperor's eyes turned cold. Just as the two attacks were about to collide, he suddenly swung his huge hand. His attack veered off course instantly. He appeared right in front of me, as if he had teleported. He dodged the clash with the Pearl God lightning, and struck directly at my true body. Killing intent flashed in my eyes, while I made no move to dodge or evade, and took the Dragon Emperor's attack head-on. Under the lock of the law's power, my soul couldn't evade it. Both of us fought as if our lives depended on it, neither willing to yield. The illusory dragon opened its jaws and bit down toward me, swallowing me whole as the terrifying power of law exploded, the roar thundering through the air. A shocking explosion erupted around my body, and at the same instant, the god-slaying lightning struck down on the Dragon Emperor. He too was swallowed by the sea of purple lightning. Armor made of law itself appeared on its body, shielding it. That armor of law had clearly been blasted open by the Pearl God lightning. Its clothes were torn in several places too. strong enough to rival the Dragon Emperor's full power strike. Even though it was hurt and a little battered, its expression was still full of excitement. Its eyes were full of bloodlust. My attacks weren't weak, it thought, but killing it was basically impossible. At most I could wound it. Meanwhile, I was only level 76. Whatever method I'd used, it didn't know. My attack was extremely strong, but my defense wasn't. It felt like it could already picture the outcome. Me getting killed by my own law attack. But the next second, its eyes suddenly narrowed. The bloodlust in them replaced by shock. I flew out of the explosion completely unharmed. Not a single defensive skill on me. And not a scrap of damage to my clothes either. Impossible, the Dragon Emperor roared. Nothing's impossible. I gave a cold snort and flicked my finger. He scrambled to block it in a panic. His law armor shattered. Part of his massive body was blasted into raw, bloody flesh, wounded once again. I didn't press the attack. When the Dragon Emperor hit me, I wasn't exactly unhurt either. My Undead Legion had already been wiped out twice in a row, and reborn twice in a row inside the summoning space. If not for the passive skill Undying Undead, I would have been in real danger. Soul skill, damage transfer. Unique talent, total rebirth. Pushing my survivability to the absolute limit. It was terrifyingly, shockingly powerful. Even Antares was stunned by it back then. It had already become the soul skill damage transfer, working together with the total amplification talent to drastically cut down the damage I took and make sure that before my Undead Legion burned out completely, I would stay safe from harm. Undying Undead lets my Undead Legion die 3 times within 5 minutes. And finally, the all-renewal talent. Within 1 minute. If I actually take a fatal blow, meaning I and my Undead Legion face death for the 5th time, this talent activates, and every skill is reset. That means I can survive for more fatal blows. Its own cooldown is only 1 minute. As long as I can hold on for 1 minute, I can go another round. Over and over, endlessly. Even Antares once sighed. Killing me is really not easy. That last strike from the Dragon Emperor triggered Undying Undead's passive skill. My Undead Legion has already died 2 rounds in a row. By my count, Dragon Emperor, you have every right to be proud. 1 more left, I calculated in my head. Pearl God Lightning can still be used 1 more time. If the Dragon Emperor doesn't back off, then I'd have to bail. Its speed was terrifying, almost like it was teleporting. Sharp fangs grew from the Dragon Emperor's mouth. The horns on its head were also far larger than usual. Its body was starting to shift into a true dragon's form. It was completely different from a moment ago. This was what it looked like when it fought with everything it had. People called this the dragon transformation. In this state, the Dragon Emperor's combat power soared. But afterward, it would be left drained and weak. This wasn't the dragon realm, though. It was the demon realm. It was thousands of meters tall, and with a gentle flap of its wings, a terrifying elemental power erupted from its body. In an instant, it swept through the entire human army. Forbidden spells collided with the power of the abyss, triggering a massive explosion. The next moment, a brilliant 7-colored light enveloped the entire dungeon. Both the humans and the demons had completely vanished. The world in the center, which had been shifting between black and white, had now turned into a land of elemental chaos. Elemental spirits began to appear everywhere. Seeing this, I suddenly realized that the scene was just a replay of a great war from the past, explaining the origin of the elemental planes. Of course, this was likely just the tip of the iceberg. Just then, the barriers blocking the 2 paths vanished simultaneously. It was time for us to make a choice. Without a second thought, I chose the path leading into the darkness. That area was tainted by abyss energy, and was where the demons gathered in the greatest numbers. For me, it was the perfect spot to farm military merit. So, we headed down the mountain along the path. The journey was quiet and uneventful, until we reached the bottom and saw monsters identical to the abyss demons. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but an endless plain. There were no buildings, no cover, nothing. And in the deepest part of the plains stood a giant statue, 100 meters tall. That was the end goal, where the dungeon boss resided. This was a unique yet simple dungeon. All we had to do was clear out all the monsters from the abyss side. Even though the dungeon was cleared, my skeleton warriors had fully recovered after some rest. So, I summoned all of them. Since I was facing a level 30 dungeon on hell difficulty, I couldn't afford to be careless. Normally, only players who have reached level 35, wearing top-tier gear, and leading a full 12-man party would dare to attempt to clear. As for someone like me, soloing at level 26, I'm probably the only one. We soon encountered the first monster. It looked a bit like an abyss wolf demon, but it was far larger than any wolf demon I'd ever seen. Standing over 5 meters tall, This blue wolf had wings, meaning it could take to the skies at any moment. My skeleton warriors charged forward, swinging their greatswords. Meanwhile, my skeleton mages unleashed their skills from the rear. A barrage of elemental attacks completely engulfed the creature. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed. The monster actually charged right through the elemental onslaught. Even a level 40 high demon would have been severely wounded by that. I cast a detection spell on it, and its status panel appeared. Trait: influenced by abyss energy. Defense increased, vitality increased. Looking at the information, I finally understood what was going on. The monsters here are closely linked to the abyss, although their levels are suppressed, and their stats aren't as high as level 40 high-tier demons. Their traits are incredibly strong. Its 3-meter blade slammed into my skeleton warriors, creating a loud metallic clash, and they didn't retreat a single step. With their insane stats, as long as the enemy's attack doesn't have special effects, there's nothing to be afraid of. No matter how high your defense or health is, it's just a matter of hitting you a few more times. The skeleton warriors at the front began unleashing Berserk Strike. The great blades fell upon it with a red glow. In no time, it was covered in wounds. But there was no blood spraying everywhere. Instead, black gas continuously seeped from its injuries. This battlefield wolf demon didn't even feel pain. If it were a normal demon, it would have fled in agony long ago. Then, 10 of my skeleton warriors unleashed their skills simultaneously. Just as the second wave of focused fire from my skeleton mages rained down, it let out a strange screech, and then vanished into thin air, shrouded in black gas. The system notified me that I'd killed a level 34 battlefield wolf demon. 680,000 experience points. The experience reward was double that of an abyss demon of the same level. But then again, this is a level 30 dungeon on hell difficulty. I frowned, looking at where it vanished. It didn't have a physical body, just like the monsters in the elemental planes. This means my corpse explosion skill is limited here. In that case, I'll just have to take them down one by one. The moment I stepped into the next area, but the world was completely engulfed in darkness. Now, the only light sources were the soul fires flickering inside the skeleton skulls. So, I condensed some soul fire in my hand for illumination. But it only lit up a small area. At that moment, Ake's eyes flashed. Her assassin skills had already kicked in. Assassins are naturally spirits of the night. There are so many monsters, Ake whispered. But I couldn't see them. So, I had her point out their locations while I handled the killing. Ake was thrilled to hear this. Ever since she exposed the Dragon Clan assassin, that she'd basically been just a pretty face. She didn't expect to be useful again here. I immediately sent my skeleton warriors in to fight. While clearing them one by one isn't as satisfying as a mass kill, it's efficient and much safer. There are tons of monsters here. Sometimes, I'd attract several of them at once. But that just meant a bit more work. After fighting for a while, I realized that there's nothing special about them. Even though it's the same hell difficulty, this place is much easier than the Dragon Clan Frontline Outpost dungeon. Our experience points kept skyrocketing as we went. By the time we were halfway through, my experience had already reached 399%. Meanwhile, Ningyi had already leveled up. Ningyi couldn't help but say, "Is this really hell difficulty? It's way too easy." After killing a few more monsters, I finally leveled up as well. After leveling up, the number of my skeleton warriors increased to 140. I decided not to use my upgraded mental power for now, since I didn't know what the boss was like. It might come in handy later. As we kept pushing forward, we had unknowingly cleared most of the dark world. The difficulty of the monsters in the second half didn't change much. They just became more densely packed. I basically had to face 2 or more monsters at a time. Encountering 4 or 5 at once was quite common. But that didn't bother me at all. Anyway, my skeletons are the ones dealing the damage up front. They're tireless. They feel no pain and fear neither life nor death. There's no one more dedicated than them. Just then, Aku suddenly spoke up. "Moyu, don't you think that it's getting brighter here?" But I had already noticed the difference. As we killed more and more monsters, the environment, which was once pitch black, did indeed become much brighter. But Aku looked confused. "Why do I feel like the boss statue is getting much darker?" "Because every time we kill a monster, some of the released black energy vanishes into the air, while the rest flows into the statue. It seems the death of these monsters is some kind of ritual to awaken the boss. As for the energy that dissipated, I noticed it seemed to be flying toward the human side. I'm certain my observation is correct. As we wipe out the abyss monsters, the power of the abyss weakens, and the power of the humans grows stronger. This dungeon looks simple on the surface, but the boss is likely the hardest part. After all, this is a level 30 hell dungeon. It can't be that easy. If it were this simple, Those teams would only need to be a bit careful, luring the monsters over and taking them out one by one. Forget about a full 12-man team. Even Shingen's team could have pushed through with some effort. Who would have thought the Hell Dungeon hid such a shocking secret? After I killed the boss of the Dark World, a mysterious person from another world actually appeared and called my name. It turns out, after Aku and I entered the Hell Level Dungeon 3, we witnessed a great war from the past. Then, two paths appeared before us. One led to the Dark Abyss world, and the other to the bright human world. So, I didn't hesitate to choose the Abyss. I thought I could earn a lot of military merit by killing monsters along the way. In the nightmare difficulty Shingen mentioned, there were no such changes. Nor was there the opening scene we saw. If he were here, he'd probably say. Shingen had described their walkthrough in great detail. While some parts matched, others didn't match at all. It's clear that the mechanics for Hell and Nightmare difficulties are completely different. The final boss statue in the Nightmare dungeon wasn't nearly as large, standing only 30 meters tall. Not like the 100-meter giant I'm facing now. Generally, the larger the size, the stronger the power, which made me even more cautious. Aku could finally give her eyes a rest. And that's exactly what's bothering me. One by one, the monsters were wiped out. It was several times darker than the thickest ink. And at its center, a faint light was emanating. The statue had already begun to tremble. It seemed ready to awaken. Once I killed the last few monsters, it should fully revive. With a serious expression, I told Aku, "Go to the foot of the mountain and stay there." Aku knew that she might just be a burden to me. So she told me to be careful and left. With no more distractions, I ordered my skeleton warriors to quickly clear out the remaining monsters. As the last monster fell, the statue let out a series of thunderous booms. Standing at its feet, I felt like a tiny ant. The sheer pressure from its massive size made it difficult for me to breathe. Then, the stones on the boss's body began to crumble away. Soon, a monster resembling a giant black panther emerged. This looked exactly like the Demon King I saw when I first entered the dungeon. Then, its status panel appeared. It was a level 36 Elemental Leopard King. All four of its primary attributes were 15,000. It possessed two skills, Elemental Explosion and Elemental Sweep. Its traits were Extreme Speed, Vitality Enhancement, and Defense Enhancement. I immediately realized it wasn't a true Abyss Demon King. It was just a monster created by absorbing energy from the Abyss. That's why its stats were lower than those of a real Abyss Demon. However, the balance of its attributes was just like the Skeleton Warriors. The Extreme Speed trait gave it incredible velocity, with its vitality and defense significantly boosted. Its survivability was greatly increased. I knew that to defeat it, I first had to limit its speed. Although the boss's size was staggering, there were plenty of weaknesses I could exploit. Against a nimble skeleton warrior, combined with a slow curse, its massive size would actually become a liability. It was just like that giant dragon I saw during the class change. At that moment, the Elemental Leopard King fully awakened. It looked down at me as if I were an ant, and let out a thunderous roar. Suddenly, fierce winds whipped up. Four elements erupted simultaneously. Countless fireballs and ice arrows rained down on me. Seeing this, I quickly activated my bone armor, blocking all the elemental attacks. Then, I cast the slow curse skill. Countless red chains wound tightly around it. The imprisoned Elemental Leopard King let out a furious roar. It strained with all its might to break free from the restraints. But even as the ground beneath its feet shattered from the force, it still couldn't break the chains. Realizing it was stuck for the moment, it simply lashed out, swinging its sharp claws violently at me. In that instant, its extreme speed was pushed to the limit. Even under the effect of the slow curse, its claws created several afterimages as they came crashing down. I didn't even flinch. The Leopard King seemed to realize something was wrong. Its claws stopped dead in midair. My skeletal armor had blocked the attack. Based on its stats, its physical attack power wasn't much higher than the Guardian of the Dragon Clan outpost. So with this armor on, I had nothing to fear. While it was focused on me, my skeleton warriors leaped onto its back. 140 skeletons unleashed their skills all at once. As their greatswords hacked into it, wisps of black gas surged out from the Elemental Leopard King's body, flying toward the human forces. Then, I summoned the rest of my skeleton mages. Just like when I fought the Hell Outpost Guardian, I surrounded the Elemental Leopard King. This way, it couldn't possibly attack all the mages at once. As my skeleton warriors unleashed a collective burst of their skills. With a collective burst of skills from my skeleton warriors and a round of elemental attacks from the mages, the Elemental Leopard King's size shrank significantly in an instant. Its body, which was once 100 meters tall, was now down to about 90. I shook my head slightly. It seemed that being wounded by mere ants was a huge humiliation for it. Then came its skill, Elemental Explosion. A massive surge of elemental power exploded from its body, instantly blowing away dozens of skeletons. The blast radius quickly expanded, sending even the skeleton mages dozens of meters away flying. I was startled. This skill is almost identical to the Elemental Queen's. The only difference is that the Elemental Queen needs the star ring to use it, while this creature doesn't. It is clearly superior in elemental control. Recalling the images I saw when I entered the dungeon, I suddenly understood how the elemental planes were formed, why the elemental secret realm was created. It was all caused by that forbidden curse war years ago. This elemental leopard king was one of the culprits. Unfortunately, the dungeon only imitated its appearance, so its level, attributes, and skills were all limited. This imitation is inferior to the elemental queen in every way, and the power of the same skill is much weaker. Berserk Strike. My skeleton warriors charged back after being blown away, completely ignoring the elemental leopard king's attack, unleashing skill after skill. But they just kept charging back, the ground cracking beneath them, as wave after wave of attacks landed. Soon, its height dropped to 70 meters. But in its rage, it activated its second skill, Elemental Sweep. Its fur turned into countless whips, lashing out wildly. It was a chaotic storm of wind, lightning, ice, and fire. It looked incredibly spectacular. Unfortunately, it was all for show. The skeleton warriors continued to ignore it. In my eyes, this big guy was nothing more than a thick-skinned target. The speed it took so much pride in was rendered useless by my slow curse. It didn't even take any effort. I just needed a bit more time to wear it down. But the weaker the elemental leopard king was compared to my expectations, the more suspicious I became. A hell-level dungeon like this was even easier than the outpost dungeon. If a full 12-man team came in, they could easily clear it with a bit of coordination. It can't possibly be this simple. Could it be that the human race route is much harder? But I quickly dismissed that thought. By now, the elemental leopard king had shrunk even further and was becoming increasingly weak. Although its abilities seemed impressive, in the end, it only bought it a few more minutes of life. Once it turned into a final wisp of black smoke and vanished completely. All darkness disappeared from the dungeon. It was now completely ruled by light. Then, the system notified me that I'd slain the elemental leopard king. I was rewarded with 2.16 million experience points and a gold-grade elemental staff. The experience was decent, but the loot was a bit disappointing. Its stats weren't even as good as the Hell Outpost staff. This definitely didn't feel like the kind of drop you'd get from a Hell difficulty dungeon. Right then, the dungeon exit appeared before me. Is it over already? Something felt off. Just then, Aku ran over to me, pointing toward the human world within the dungeon. Something's happening over there. The human world was glowing brilliantly, and a mage appeared in midair. He was shrouded in elements and held a staff. He wasn't a real person, but a manifestation of energy, just like the elemental leopard king. As I watched him, he actually looked down at me. Our eyes met, and suddenly, an old, majestic voice echoed. "Come find me." My pupils dilated in shock. I instantly felt a chill run down my spine. It seemed I was the only one who could hear that voice. Who would have thought that a hell-level dungeon, which was practically a death sentence, that would actually be the inheritance site of gods from throughout history? I never expected that the final boss of the dungeon, that would be a remnant soul of a god-level mage. So, I told Aku to wait for me here. Aku knew what I was up to, and warned me to be careful. Then, I headed toward the human world with my skeleton. But the moment I stepped inside, I was shocked. Compared to the gloomy and deathly abyss world, this place was a sacred world brimming with life. They were complete opposites. Just then, a humanoid monster appeared nearby. I quickly cast a detection spell. And its status panel appeared. To my surprise, its spirit and physique stats were even higher than the elemental leopard king's. It was clearly a magic-type monster. It seems that after I cleared the dark world, the dark power was absorbed by the human world. That's what significantly buffed the monsters here. They evolved from regular elite monsters into hell-level enhanced elites. Worst of all, they were mage-type monsters, which are my least favorite. Not only could their repelling fire rings push back my skeleton warriors, but their magic shields also provided great protection. Plus, their physical and elemental damage is halved, making them incredibly resilient, which makes them a real pain to eliminate. But since I'm already here, there's no reason to be afraid. So, I summoned my skeleton army. The skeleton warriors charged in with their great swords, while the skeleton mages behind them raised their staves, raining down a barrage of elemental attacks. But a second later, a blue light flickered around the mage soul. and a magic shield instantly appeared around it, blocking all the attacks from my mages. Then, a ring of fire erupted from its body, sending the front line of skeleton warriors flying. That was the Mage Soul's Fire Ring skill, which ignores levels and attribute-based control effects. Even if a few were knocked back, more kept coming. The skeleton warrior's blades kept hacking at the magic shield, causing it to warp. A few more hits, and it would shatter. But then, the Mage Soul activated another skill, and fiery meteors rained down from the sky. As countless meteors slammed into the ground, the land was instantly turned into a sea of fire. Yet, my skeleton warriors didn't even flinch, continuing to slash at the enemy through the flames. After taking dozens of hits, the magic shield finally shattered. Berserk Strike. Just then, the skeleton warrior's skill landed. I killed a level 36 Hellgrade enhanced elite monster. I gained 1.96 million experience points. After that, I continued heading deeper into the human world. I didn't run into any other monsters on the way. Just those mage monsters I hate the most. There were over 20 of them in total. It took me another hour or so to finally clear them all out. Soon, I arrived in front of the final boss. The mage I had seen earlier opened its eyes and looked at me. Kill me, kill me. I was startled to hear this. This humanoid mage monster could not only speak, but it also seemed to have its own consciousness. While I was pondering this, it slowly stood up. It didn't look much different from a normal human. It was a far cry from the other humanoid monsters I'd met along the way. It wore a mage's robe. The robe was also manifested from energy. As it stood up, it instinctively straightened its clothes. This was the first time I'd ever encountered something like this. Then, a fiery red staff appeared in the mage's hand. My eyes narrowed. This staff wasn't made of energy. It was a real piece of equipment. It slowly raised its head and looked at me. Want to know why? Kill me, and I'll tell you. But no matter how I looked at it, those words just felt wrong. How could it still be talking after it died? While I was wondering, it raised its staff high. A massive fireball shot out of nowhere, searing with intense heat, and rushed toward me at an incredible speed. My skeleton warrior quickly stepped in front of me to block it. The skeleton warrior's body actually began to shatter. At the same time, flames erupted and blasted in every direction. I quickly activated my bone armor to shield myself from the remaining blast. I was shocked. This mage's attack was way too powerful. It was far stronger than the elemental leopard king from before. Had most of the dungeon's energy shifted to this mage? Maybe even the energy from the humanoid monsters had been absorbed by it. Just then, the mage spoke again. If you can't kill me, then I'll kill you. Then, it raised its staff and began chanting a spell. In that instant, the entire dungeon began to tremble. My expression shifted instantly. Right then, the dungeon exit suddenly vanished. Even my dungeon escape talisman stopped working. The only way to leave now was to kill the boss in front of me. My gaze sharpened. I raised my hand and summoned my skeleton army. The skeleton warriors and mages launched a simultaneous attack. At the same time, I cast a detection spell on the boss. Immediately, its attribute panel appeared. A level 39 boss. While its strength and agility are mediocre, its spirit is a staggering 40,000 points. On top of that, it actually has 5 different skills. For a professional, strength isn't just about stats. Even though it was reconstructed by the dungeon's energy after death, it still kept all the traits of a mage. With 40,000 points, it has already surpassed the Elemental Queen. But there's no turning back now. I immediately ordered my skeleton warriors to charge. Surrounded by a red glow, several of them unleashed their Berserk Strike at once. But right then, a blue barrier instantly appeared around the boss. This was its magic shield skill. The skeleton warrior's attacks slammed into the shield, causing it to erupt in a blinding light, and its shape even began to warp. However, it returned to normal half a second later. That's the strongest magic shield I've ever encountered. I immediately cast Soul Flame. It's the only skill I have that can ignore defense. A moment later, a burst of fire exploded on the boss's head, and the damage made its whole body tremble violently. Yet, it didn't make a single sound. Before it could even recover, I activated Slow Curse. Bound by iron chains, its speed plummeted. It seemed it didn't expect me to have curse skills. That's when its expression finally changed. It looked surprised, yet somehow satisfied. Right then, the skeleton mages launched their attacks in quick succession. A barrage of elemental magic completely overwhelmed it. Wind, fire, lightning, and thunder collided all at once. A second later, the shield shattered. With the shield gone, the skeleton warrior's attacks slammed into the boss. Suddenly, beams of light struck my skeleton mages. Those hit by the light stopped chanting their spells instantly. This was the boss's skill, Silence. As more light shot out from the boss, Seeing this, I quickly recalled the mages who weren't silenced yet. Now, I'd have to rely on the skeleton warrior's physical attacks. The boss tried to back away, but with my slow curse active, it could barely move. I continued to blast it with soul flames. Every soul strike caused it immense pain. But just then, the skeleton warriors in the front suddenly stopped. Chains appeared around their bodies. This was another boss skill, wind shackles. Meanwhile, a blue light flashed around the boss. And just like that, its magic shield reappeared. It kept spamming its skills, trapping several skeleton warriors with every cast. In the blink of an eye, over half of my skeleton warriors were trapped. Now, I have to rely on myself. In the past, I could have cleared dungeons easily using the corpse explosion skill. But in this dungeon, there are no corpses to trigger it. So, Soul Flame is the only useful skill I have right now. Fortunately, the boss's magic shield can't block it. The boss's expression became increasingly distorted with pain. Then, it raised its staff and screamed. Meteor fire world destruction. Complex, mysterious starlight patterns began forming under my feet. It quickly formed into a pentagram array, and the sky turned crimson in an instant. Then, countless flaming meteors rained down. Both the range and power were even greater than the mage who ambushed me back then. I quickly activated bone armor to defend myself. But since the skill's range was too wide, I had nowhere to hide, so I decided to go all out against it. Let's see who can hold out the longest. So, while enduring the meteors, I kept using Soul Flame, refreshing my bone armor every now and then. A berserker. It was incredibly exciting. I had been running dungeons since way back. I was always the tank, drawing aggro, drawing enemy fire. The elemental lich burned as it flew. Under its aura, everything resonated and grew stronger. Looking at it from a strength perspective, it seemed I already knew. It could definitely burn a giant dragon to death. Gathering power, I recovered in the midst of slaughter, back to how I was before. My soul level even rose slightly. Improving the soul level is the hardest thing. Every bit of soul improvement counts. Every bit is good, and after reaching God level, if a great war like this kept going, I believed I would step into level 93 before long. By then, whether it was me or the Skeleton King, we would all grow stronger than before. If I use my strong skills at the same time, when I kill enemies, my soul level rises. I suddenly felt something. A powerful aura surged ahead. Even stronger Dragon Kings and Demon Kings were rushing over. My eyes lit up. Perfect, I'll use you to test it. Soul skill, strong soldier. My soul power surged in an instant. I underestimated the cost of using both skills at once, using them together versus separately. With my level 77 soul, I could only sustain it for 3 seconds. I used it over and over, explosive blasts tearing through everything, killing huge swaths of demons before I could extend the skill's duration. I only managed to prolong it while using strong soldier. But my attack power directly jumped by 500%. It was a law that even I couldn't comprehend. This skill had brought me incredible results countless times. The Dragon Demon allied forces were massacring Sakura country and Kimchi country. They discovered the fighting here and rushed over. Leading them were 4 Demon Kings and Dragon Kings above level 94. One of them was an old acquaintance of mine. The Dark Sky Demon King called out my name. I saw it too, and it began to speak softly. I saw it and said, just in time. Just then, my god-slaying skill was ready again. My soul locked onto it in an instant. I swung my sword. From several kilometers away, the Dark Sky Demon King suddenly sensed danger. He retreated quickly, but it was too late. He screamed as his wings were severed by the blow. Both his legs were severed clean off. If this had been before the strong soldier skill, he could have withstood it and gotten off with just a scratch. This strike nearly cost him his life. The Dark Sky Demon King, just as the sword light flared up, he had already begun burning his life force. A black demon stone was activated, carrying him away in an instant. 1 Demon King and 2 Dragon Kings were slashed into severe wounds on the spot. It escaped quite fast. I murmured softly. In my eyes, the Dark Sky Demon King truly was alive. So many times, and I still could not kill it. Cutting down mid-level Demon Kings was like slaughtering dogs. I was very satisfied with the skill's effect. I charged into the Dragon Demon allied forces. I began a massacre, just as I had expected. Combining the 2 skills had an even greater effect on improving my soul level. I could feel that after enemies died, soul power was drawn toward me. It turned into power that raised my soul level. The process of transformation was truly mysterious. I swept through everything, crushing battle after battle, and completely routed the enemy. I leveled up to 77. A moment passed. I was surprised and said, "What's wrong?" The Dragon Demon allied forces had come charging over aggressively. So why did they suddenly retreat? Did something happen to them? I asked, and Meng Anwen explained. It was the demons. That made it even stranger. Their retreat is a good thing. And he had a point. Once the demons retreat, only the dragon clan will be left, and the pressure on humanity will drop a lot. Casualties will be greatly reduced too. I asked, the demons have withdrawn, what about the dragon clan? Meng Anwen said, what is their reaction? They have temporarily stopped attacking. But I think they will probably retreat too. The dragon clan should realize that facing us humans alone, the most likely outcome is mutual destruction. I said, mutual destruction only benefits the abyss demons. Meng Anwen's judgment made a lot of sense. Barring any surprises, this is how things would play out. It was the best outcome we could hope for. Humanity had suffered massive losses. But the dragon demon allied forces took a heavy hit too. Meng Anwen continued, this sudden war. It must be related to you. They wanted to kill you. This ambush's main target was me, with Meng Anwen and the others secondary. But every attempt ended in failure. They never managed to kill a single one of us. This great war had lost all meaning. Meng Anwen activated the Eternal Array, and through it, he could see the entire primordial battlefield. The evil army was retreating like a receding tide. The army seized the moment to fall back to the fortress, and we didn't pursue. Meng Anwen let out a soft gasp. He's here. Why is he here? I shifted my gaze, puzzled. It's God E, Meng Anwen said, nodding. God E has arrived. Looks like he's recovered. The colonel wasn't surprised I could figure that out. Given Meng Anwen's experience and position, there were very few things in this world that could genuinely shock him. But even he was in awe of the Star Colonel. Jiang Yi was a legendary figure who had lived over 300 years ago. His power was terrifying. Before his fall, he had already reached level 98. He had even touched the threshold of half-step godhood. But too much time had passed since then. And because of that distance in time, even someone like Meng Anwen couldn't summon the full respect that Jiang Yi deserved. Awe doesn't really exist in their hearts. Among those at the half-step god level, Emperor Di's presence is far stronger than Jiang Yi's. This subtle psychological shift, only the person experiencing it can truly understand. I was a bit puzzled. What is he doing here now? Why did Jiang Yi not show up earlier? Why does he appear only now? Did he just find out? Or did he just recover? The Eternal Great Wall's activation was so massive. Last time the Demon Emperor struck from afar, he could sense it even then. Let alone this time, Meng speculated. Jiang Yi came riding his sword from afar. He charged into the dragon army, one man with one sword. With laws at his command, countless dragon generals fell. Even the dragon kings in the army couldn't withstand him. They couldn't even last 3 to 5 seconds. Jiang Yi was like entering an empty land. Sword light flashed everywhere as he slaughtered in all directions. The dragon army was completely routed by Jiang Yi. They scattered and fled. The demons had already withdrawn. He charged once again into the depths of the primordial battlefield and disappeared into the darkness. It was clear that the dragons and demons deep in the primal battlefield, whoever was caught by it, would meet a truly miserable end. Meng Anwen sighed. He seemed to be venting. Earlier, Jiang Yi had been killing ferociously, fast, and ruthless. His laws poured out wildly. Meng Anwen could feel that emotion in his sword light. Think about it. He was nearly killed, alone for centuries before finally being reborn. How could there be no hatred? Meng Anwen understood completely. But hearing this, I frowned. Teacher, are you saying he's venting? His sword light and laws were filled with hatred, a deep hatred. Everyone who died under his blade was chopped to pieces. Meng Anwen's words only confused me more. Now that I think about it, it is a bit strange. Some people, even after they were already dead, he would still stab the corpse a few more times, dismembering them completely. I thought, when I met the god of righteousness in the secret realm, he felt very gentle to me, like someone who had seen through everything. An old man who had understood it all, without any resentment or hatred. Only openness remained. Meng Anwen thought for a few seconds and slowly said, after being resurrected, Jiang Yi completely erupted. The Dragon Emperor was practically shaking his head at me. This should not be. Even if he hates demons, it should not go this far, especially since what he just killed was not a demon, but a dragon. What I said made perfect sense. The higher one's soul level, the steadier their emotions should be. Even though the Dragon Emperor hates me to the bone, he still kept his composure. Back in Jiang Yi's era, dragons and humans only crossed paths on the ancient battlefield. Back then, humanity's greatest enemy was still the demons. Jiang Yi nearly truly fell because of the demons too. The demons had just retreated. If Jiang Yi wanted to chase, he could have caught them easily. But that is not what happened. Jiang Yi gave the feeling he would kill any enemy on sight, no matter who it was. His reason seemed clouded. I thought for a moment. then took out Antares' dragon scale. This concerned humanity's half-step transcendence. After the D-Emperor left, Jiang Yi was the strongest of the human race. His situation could not be ignored. I steeled myself and went to bother Antares again. Luckily, he was not asleep this time, though I could not avoid catching a few sarcastic remarks. My skin had gotten pretty thick by now, especially when it came to Antares. It was practically at the super god level. I got some answers from Antares. Meng Anwen looked at me. Sir, what do you say? I put away the dragon scales. It said Jiang Yi ran into some trouble during the revival process. The specific issue was with the demon pearl sword in Jiang Yi's hand. Meng Anwen searched his memory and spoke gravely. According to records, back then when forging the pearl demon sword, humanity paid a heavy price. The royal family might have detailed records. Let's go check it out. The Abyss demons suddenly withdrew their forces. The dragon clan was instantly caught off guard, although humanity didn't pursue them. But the dragons were too weak to counterattack. They had no choice but to retreat first. And Jiang Yi's involvement only made things worse. He dealt the dragon clan a devastating blow. Outside the demon emperor's palace in the Abyss, the dragon emperor arrived, storming toward the palace in fury. He roared at the palace without stopping. Demon emperor, what do you mean by this? Why did you retreat? The dragon emperor's voice was thick with rage. It made the Abyss flames tremble. The demon emperor didn't show himself. His voice came from inside the palace. Our plan has failed. If we didn't retreat, what else could we do? The dragon emperor said angrily. Even though we failed to ambush and kill Lin Moyu. But as long as our two sides joined forces, at least we could drive humanity out of the primal battlefield. Are you out of your mind? Don't you know Jiang Yi is back? The demon emperor sneered with contempt. The dragon emperor was taken aback. Finally, he remembered who Jiang Yi was. He rose to power over 700 years ago. He ultimately fell. At that time, the dragon race was cut off from the original battlefield. He didn't really know much about Jiang Yi. Jiang Yi, the dragon emperor, spoke the name. The demon emperor answered. Dead? Not dead. He died but wasn't completely dead. Died 6,000 years ago, now he's back. The dragon emperor let out a cry of surprise. But it's definitely connected to him. If you want to know, you can go ask. Anyway, he's right there. It wouldn't be hard. Are you kidding? Go see Antares. Does he have more than one life? If he just stayed put in the dragon realm, Antares wouldn't be bored enough to come kill me. Exactly. Both sides had an agreement. Go before him, and he'd probably get roasted by a single dragon breath. The demon emperor continued. No matter the reason, Jiang Yi has been resurrected. He's level 98 at peak, half a step to godhood. A bit weaker than us, but not by much. With him around, attacking the human race is pointless. As the demon emperor says, half-step supreme stood guard over humanity, half-step transcendence watched over our race. And with Antares as our mighty protector, they couldn't even dream of destroying humanity. Even driving us out of the primordial battlefield was impossible, especially now that I was here. I was too mysterious. The dragon emperor knew the tide had turned. There was no point in continuing to attack. He had thought that without the D-Emperor, they could drive humanity out of the primordial battlefield. Finally put humanity in their place for once. Cripple us completely. He never expected it would turn out like this. After speaking, the dragon emperor, filled with rage. The dragon emperor stormed off, leaving the abyss behind. The abyssal flame burned even more fiercely. The demon emperor lay on his throne. His eyes were deeply conflicted. Idiot. Can't even understand his own identity. And he thought he could cripple humanity? We're pawns, understand? Since we're pawns. Act when you should act. Lie low when you should lie low. Surrender when you should surrender. Living beats everything. I can't wait any longer. I have to find a way to survive. But the hatred between us and humanity can never be erased. What a headache. The abyssal flame keeps getting stronger. Until the entire demon emperor's palace was engulfed and shrouded. Back in the imperial palace, Meng Anwen stated his purpose directly. Dongfang Yi didn't hesitate at all. I directly took all the materials about Jiang Yi and the demon-slaying sword. The royal family can be considered the longest-standing family in the Xinxia Empire. All records since the founding of the nation have been preserved. Meng Anwen and I carefully looked through the materials. Jiang Yi's life deeds were all recorded in great detail. There was a lot of information that the outside world didn't have, especially regarding the origins of the demon-slaying sword. Jiang Yi obtained it by chance. According to the feedback from the detection technique, this was a top-tier divine-grade material called demon gold. In Jiang Yi's time, there were no god-level blacksmiths, and such a divine-grade material couldn't go to waste. So several top blacksmiths joined forces. They came up with a method. By gathering the power of Demon King blood essence, they would smelt the demon gold. At that time, wars raged constantly between the abyssal demons and the human race. In several great battles, Jiang Yi bravely stepped in. They forged it into the demon-slaying sword. Unfortunately, it wasn't made by a god-level blacksmith. They used divine-grade materials, but until he was targeted by the demons. In the end, he exhausted himself and died in that great battle. But no one knew that Jiang Yi wasn't completely dead. And over 600 years later, he was resurrected through my hands by Antares' great power. But after coming back, something seemed off. The problem was with the Pearl Demon Sword. I knew Antares wouldn't be wrong about something like that. The records had no specific information about that piece of demon gold. I said quietly. It came from beyond the sky, but no one knew what it actually did. Meng Anwen asked if there was a way to find out. I shook my head. It doesn't know anything about mythical-grade materials. In Antares' eyes, even those are worthless. I thought about it for a moment. According to what the records say, the 5 master blacksmiths who forged the Pearl Demon Sword back then, one of them, Dongfang Jin, was said to be from the royal family. He immediately found the relevant information. I asked if we could get all his information. And any personal notes or diaries, bring all of them to me. The royal family has always kept records of everything. Every scrap of information, useful or not, gets saved. That habit comes in handy when you need to find something. Such a small request, Dongfang Yi naturally wouldn't refuse. Dongfang Yi said these materials weren't anything valuable. It's just that finding them would take some time. The royal family has no shortage of people. In just half an hour, there were results. He actually recorded most of his life's works in his files. He was a top-level 88 blacksmith. His greatest achievement was forging the Pearl Demon Sword. In his diary, I found information about demon gold, just as I'd hoped. Teacher, look at this passage. I handed it to Meng Anwen. After he read it, his expression shifted slightly. So that's how it was. Dongfang Yi noticed something was wrong. He picked up on it too. Lorden, I turned my gaze toward him. Lorden, is there a problem? Meng Anwen's gaze swept over, and Dongfang Yi understood. He immediately dismissed everyone and set up a simple soundproofing formation. Meng Anwen said, according to the records, the main material of the Pearl Demon Sword was a mythical-grade substance called demon gold. It has the power to bewitch the mind. It can even become bloodthirsty. Even low-level professionals were influenced by demon gold. Someone had been killed. The 3 of us went through the data methodically, unraveling it thread by thread until we found the answer. The Pearl Demon Sword was forged from demon gold. While it granted immense power, it also carried devastating side effects. Meng Anwen spoke, looking back at everything that had happened. The righteous god had indeed been affected by demon gold. Senior Jin had been able to resist demon gold. By that logic, the righteous god should have been able to resist it too. Yet now he was under its influence. There must have been a problem during his resurrection. If it was only a surface influence, that was still manageable. I believed with the righteous god's level of soul, he could surely set things right. What I'm afraid of, Meng Anwen said gravely. My expression turned grim. I nodded silently. The real fear was that he'd been affected at a much deeper level. That he wasn't even himself anymore. I didn't say it, but everyone understood. I'll notify old Bai and the others. Tell them to stay alert. I nodded. I really had no idea what disaster this would bring. The righteous god has returned. Was I overthinking it? Nothing could stop him now. After all, he's humanity's only demigod. With him here, humanity finally had some backbone. I headed to the primordial battlefield, standing high in the air. I looked down at the eternal Great Wall. This was the work of over 10 generations of ancestors. Hundreds of years of effort went into building it. Construction began in the righteous god's era, but it wasn't truly finished until 100 years after his fall. 9 eternal fortresses linked together as one. They formed a barrier that held the demons back. Because of the eternal Great Wall, humanity had been safe all these centuries. The demons could only slip through using special methods. They launched small incursions against the cities. A full-scale invasion was possible in theory, but not in practice. A war like this hadn't happened in centuries. Half a day later, word came back. The demons and the dragon race had all retreated. The primordial battlefield fell completely silent. The eternal Great Wall rumbled to a slow stop. The formations across the empire powered down one by one. After the war came the casualty reports. It was going to be a grim tally. In just a few days of war, many have already fallen. They are heroes, martyrs. Every single one will be remembered. For the soldiers and professionals who died on the battlefield, the Xinxiao Empire always takes care of its own. Their families will receive the best care. They won't lack a thing. I stood in the void outside Fortress 9, sighing at the cruelty of war. For most people, it's far too brutal. I clenched my fists. This is humanity's world. The abyss. The dragons, none of you belong here. Even back when I was studying, I had my own ideas. If I had enough power, I would charge into the abyss. Wipe out the demons. Now I'm adding the dragons to that list. Now I have to add the dragons too. A sword light came flying from afar. In a blink, it stopped above the fortress. Jiang Yi came riding the Zhuma sword. He flew in from beyond the fortress. He didn't spare a glance at the soldiers cleaning up. He shot me a look. My heart lurched. Something felt wrong. It went beyond what I expected. It's not that simple anymore. How could I not recognize him? After all, we spent centuries alone together in that secret realm. They blocked me even though I'm human. I was blocked, but didn't make a sound. Someone tried to force their way in and spoke. Open the formation. The voice was low and slightly hoarse. The voice had changed, here in this secret realm. I had once spoken directly with Jiang Yi's soul. I remembered the voice I heard back then. Even though back then he was just a soul. When he condensed into human form, he would have kept his original voice. The change in his voice caught my attention. He'd just returned from countless battles, slaughtering dragons and demons, yet there was no blood on him. Something was wrong. There was no trace of blood at all. In normal times this would be fine, but once the Great War ended, things became anything but normal. All the fortress affairs, I handled them. Only when things got beyond what I could manage would Yihao step in. Jiang Yi remarked that my tone was off. Jiang Yi was at level 92, low-tier god realm. I could hear the disdain in his voice at that rank. I couldn't see Jiang Yi's level, but I could feel how strong he was. Standing before him, I felt an overwhelming pressure. I knew it was because the gap between us was just too vast. What? I suddenly thought of something. Jiang Yi said he was the one who opened the formation. I exclaimed, "Are you really God Yi? Didn't you fall over 600 years ago?" Jiang Yi snorted coldly and said he hadn't. I wasn't exactly unconscious all along. Now I've revived. I'll open the formation and go in. I listened on the sidelines and quietly said to myself, this is the third time, and the tone is even more urgent than before. I wondered what he was planning to do. I was certain of one thing. Jiang Yi definitely had a purpose for coming here. It's also the strongest point, as it's close to the entrance of the abyss. Whenever there's a battle, this is where the fighting is most intense. Other than that, Fortress 9 isn't much different from the other fortresses. I thought about the demon extermination tower, if there's any difference at all, but I quickly dismissed that idea. The tower and Jiang Yi aren't from the same era. Then what could it be? I stayed silent. He was quite cautious. He didn't activate the formation immediately. Instead, he sent out a message. Soon, more people flew over from the fortress. Yi Hao and the others arrived, and Bai Yuan was among them. Bai Yuan had come to Fortress 9 to provide support. The Great War had just ended, so he hadn't left yet. He barely even had to lift a finger. From his expression, it seemed his relationship with Yi Hao had softened. I had just brought news about Jiang Yi. I only told Bai Yuan. I didn't even tell Yi Hao. The moment Yi Hao saw Jiang Yi, his body trembled violently. You are the god of Yi. Jiang Yi frowned as he looked at Yi Hao. Your surname is Yi. Yi Hao nodded upon hearing this. Your ancestor, Jiang Yi said. I didn't expect you to be Baran's descendant. Yi Hao replied. Back then, it was all thanks to the god of Yi for saving my ancestor. My ancestor later founded the Yi family in Shansheng, which has continued to this day. Jiang Yi didn't say anything more about the Yi family. Open the formation. This time, he seemed to be trying his best to stay calm. But I could feel it. Jiang Yi was even more anxious than before. I kept a close eye on him from the side. I noticed that Jiang Yi had absolutely no interest in Yi Baran in his eyes. He was just going through the motions. Actually, it wasn't that he had no interest. It was more like a hint of disgust. Meanwhile, Yi Hao was quite excited. He didn't notice anything strange about the god of Yi, so I secretly sent a message to Bai Yuan telling him to keep his distance. Yi Hao immediately ordered the formation to be opened to let Jiang Yi in. Wang Lin naturally wouldn't disobey Yi Hao's orders. Jiang Yi entered without stopping and flew straight toward the center of the fortress. Yi Hao followed along. Senior Jiang Yi, our ancestors left behind a teaching, saying that you had not fallen. Jiang Yi gave a faint, ambiguous smile. There was a strange look in his eyes. Yi Hao continued. What exactly did the ancestors say? Did they say anything else? They said you were peerless. Once you returned, you would be the strongest among humans. And if anyone could transcend godhood, it would be you. Yi Hao sounded quite excited. Clearly, Jiang Yi's return and the fulfillment of the prophecy had a huge impact on him. Jiang Yi smiled and said, what a pity. Yi Hao was completely unaware of the danger. But Wang Lin felt that something was wrong. He was staring intently at Jiang Yi. His fists clenched. Jiang Yi's gaze drifted casually over Wang Lin. By then, They had reached the center of the fortress. They were in the plaza, the place where the demon extermination tower was kept. The place was empty, so I followed from a distance. He didn't really have a reason to come here. Zhang Yi stopped. He looked around and noted that the place was quite clean. Yi Hao mentioned that there used to be a tower here. Watch out, someone shouted. Suddenly, Wang Lin let out a thunderous roar. A flash of sword light followed immediately. Yi Hao screamed as blood sprayed into the sky. Both of Yi Hao's arms were severed cleanly. Bai Yuan arrived unexpectedly. He cried out in shock. What? Whoever struck Yi Hao down was, like him, one of their own kind, a human. Yi Hao and Wang Lin shared a deep bond, and Wang Lin looked up to Yi Hao as an elder. Yi Hao had no children of his own, so he treated Wang Lin like his own son. Watching Yi Hao die right there on the spot, but he cried out to Zhang Yi, his face filled with grief and tears. Why? Zhang Yi sneered, his expression cold and gloomy. He mocked. Who would have thought this guy was actually so loyal? I simply wanted god-level blood. This will do for now. Suddenly, a massive amount of blood sprayed out, raining down like droplets. The blood was a mix of black and red. It all emitted an incredibly powerful aura. He had collected a vast amount of god-level blood from the demon and dragon kings. No one knew what Zhang Yi was planning. He moved far too quickly. Even I couldn't react in time. No one expected that he would turn on his own kind. If Wang Lin hadn't reacted quickly enough, it would have been Yi Hao who died on the spot, not just lost his arms. Zhang Yi, who had reached level 98, had already stepped into the threshold of half-step godhood. Zhang Yi, wielding the law of wine. He roared in disbelief. It's impossible. How could a fellow human attack his own kind? We know exactly who you people are. You were the cowards who ran away during the Great War. Did you really think you could fight this out? He suddenly realized he had overlooked something. When did he obtain this power? When did he get a mental trait that could actually resist this? From that moment on, Zhang Yi had already become something abnormal. I was wrong, completely wrong. He was putting on a show. I was just too weak back then. He definitely knew, but he kept it to himself. Combining that with what Zhang Yi is saying now, it all clicks. I suddenly realized that it was never about the greater good of the nation. My god of justice sacrificed himself for his own reasons. As for what those reasons were, we're about to find out. The sheep's blood wine spilled onto the ground. It was quickly absorbed by the earth. Then, a blood-red formation emerged. The space around me began to warp. Meng Anwen appeared beside me, carrying the Xinxia Tower. Yin Quanxing arrived at the same time. I had just sent them a message, and they rushed over immediately. Their expressions changed the moment they saw the formation. Is this a blood formation? I asked. Meng Anwen explained what it was. It's a sinister formation. It absorbs the blood of the powerful, and converts it into energy for rapid leveling. I knew that nothing comes for free. Meng Anwen continued. You can even reach the 3rd rank overnight. But the side effects are severe. Some who used the blood array either went insane, or their bodies exploded. Even those who succeeded found their progress stalled for life, as their foundation was destroyed. The blood array appeared a long time ago. There are records of it, but then it vanished. Zhang Yi suddenly turned to Meng Anwen. You, a god-level array master, and you have already reached level 96. It would be a waste of power to save you. The array suddenly activated, and a blood-red light shot into the sky. From his perspective, he looked quite satisfied. It's too early. Still too early. The world began to shake violently. Everywhere the light reached. So weak and useless. He would have ascended to godhood 600 years ago. But he blamed it all on those humans in the abyss. Because they ran away on their own. He failed to collect enough blood in time. It's all your fault. But after today, he would finally ascend. Ascend? Using the blood array to advance might not even work. What do you know? The blood array was never meant for the likes of you. You will all become my avatars, Zhang Yi declared. A level 96 array master might not be much, but it is enough. I felt that Zhang Yi was talking far too much. He's just stalling for time. Attack! Yin Quanxing and Bai Yuan struck almost simultaneously. Quanxing swung his long blade. But Zhang Yi couldn't move. He stood within the blood array. It's useless, Zhang Yi sneered. With your meager strength. Let alone deal with us. Just wait until I reach the super god level. And then I'll finish you all off. I looked over at Meng Anwen. Little guy, I remember now. Could you help me bring the dragon pearl to Antares? Thank you. Without you, the resurrection would have taken much longer. Antares is indeed powerful. Unfortunately, he doesn't care about the affairs here. You can only pray for the best now. Meng Anwen's attacks had no effect at all. The blood array was like an unbreakable turtle shell. I looked on, deep in thought. I analyzed every word Zhang Yi said. searching for the key points. The Blood Array first appeared 800 years ago. He claimed to be the creator of the Blood Array. That is when it hit me. I thought about the Demon Gold. He keeps calling himself the Honorable One. Jiang Yi's mind was manipulated by the Demon Gold. He was manipulated and then possessed. This thought suddenly struck me, and I felt my guess couldn't be wrong. He was the Demon Gold. Or perhaps he had already replaced Jiang Yi. There are no such coincidences in this world. The detection should be accurate, it cannot be fooled. And Terry's mentioned that the outside world, that is full of wonders. Nothing should be surprising. My mind suddenly opened up. Finally, I found the answer. The Blood Array's evil nature leaves severe side effects. And these side effects affect the soul itself. But as for the Jiang Yi standing before me, the Blood Array doesn't harm him. Back then, wars were constant, making it much easier to collect the blood of powerful experts than it is now. And because he wanted to collect blood from Demon King level beings, Jiang Yi always charged to the front of every battle. He wasn't some selfless hero fighting for humanity. He did it purely for himself. He even secretly set up blood arrays within the fortress on the battlefield, just to soar to the heavens and reach super god status. But in the end, a single failure. That wasted hundreds of years of his life. He claims to be immortal, just like the array in front of me. There's no such thing as an unbreakable array. You just have to find the right method. Becoming a super god isn't that easy. At that moment, 999 blood arrays merged into one. It was like the eternal Great Wall had been activated, and its defensive power was terrifying. In that case, I'll just cut their connection. Thus, Meng Anwen had the strongest control over it. A powerful defensive barrier rose. The formation was struggling, blocked by the blood-colored light pillar, and it couldn't be fully activated. But it was useless. The enemy laughed loudly. It's useless. With a pathetic formation like that, you're no match for me. Blood accumulated over hundreds of years was converted into massive energy, pouring continuously into Jiang Yi. Jiang Yi's aura was surging, becoming stronger and stronger. Suddenly, a bolt of light struck the blood-colored pillar, exploding into a sea of lightning. The purple pearl god lightning, carrying the laws of lightning. For a split second, the blood formation stalled. Meng Anwen seized that opening, unleashing his full power to fully deploy the Eternal Great Wall. The blood formations across all 9 fortresses were severed by the Eternal Great Wall, while the blood formations on the battlefield outside the fortresses were still active. Their power could no longer reach the center. The blood formation surrounding Jiang Yi became an isolated island. Shocked, Jiang Yi's gaze fell on me. Then, he spotted the ancient lightning tower in my hand. Even if you did get your hands on it, there's no way you can control it. You're only level 77. Impossible, absolutely impossible. At this moment, Jiang Yi looked a bit like the Dragon Emperor. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He couldn't believe I recognized the Goulet Outer Tower. He must also know about the God-slaying fortress. I can now be 100% certain. Jiang Yi wasn't just being manipulated. He had actually been possessed. The soul currently inside Jiang Yi's body. That isn't Jiang Yi, but a creature from beyond this world. As for which race it belongs to, I'm not sure, but that doesn't matter. He's my enemy now, and I just need to find a way to kill him. I don't need to waste a single word on an enemy. Every extra word is just a waste of breath. With a flick of my finger, another bolt of purple pearl god lightning shot out. It slammed into the blood array. The Eternal Great Wall had severed the connections between the blood arrays. He roared, continuously boosting the power of the array. Blood began to seep from his entire body. Meng Anwen also put everything into strengthening the Eternal Great Wall's formation. The two formations clashed in a fierce struggle. The collision triggered violent energy fluctuations. Strong winds howled throughout the fortress. Energy turbulence was everywhere. Many practitioners were hit by the turbulence. They were injured instantly. I scanned the area. Everyone, leave the fortress. Bai Yuan wanted to say something, but Yin Guangxing pulled him away, shouting, "Stop talking and just go." Meng Anwen was even more decisive than Yin Guangxing. He unleashed a series of laws. They turned into runes that merged into the Eternal Great Wall. It has all sorts of functions. Teleportation is one of them. The Xinxia Tower suddenly expanded. It instantly towered over everything. "Xiaoyu, be careful," Meng Anwen shouted. Then he teleported away with Bai Yuan and the others. In an instant, Fortress 9 was completely emptied. I continued to maintain the Eternal Great Wall. This wasn't just happening at Fortress 9, but at the other 8 fortresses as well. Meng Anwen was starting to figure things out. The blood array consisted of 9 main arrays, which corresponded to 990 arrays across the primordial battlefield. The 990 arrays outside would be like soldiers who had lost their commander, with no idea what to do. The main array was the one located inside Fortress 9. As long as the array in Fortress 9 was under control, the other 8 arrays were no longer a threat. But to be safe, Meng Anwen still issued a series of orders. Yin Guangxing, Yi Hao, and many other god-level experts among the humans received the command. Many of these experts didn't actually know what was going on, and were quite confused by the blood arrays in the fortresses. However, after receiving Meng Anwen's order, they didn't hesitate to take action. Bai Yuan targeted the blood array outside Fortress 9. He couldn't handle the blood array controlled by Jiang Yi, nor the others controlled by specific individuals, but the arrays outside the fortresses were currently unmanned. This made them far easier to destroy. Under his iron fist, the blood array quickly collapsed. Meng Anwen then sent Yin Guangxing to Fortress 8, before turning his attention to the one outside. The god-level experts stepped in. One by one, the blood arrays were torn down. Jiang Yi's expression turned sour. He could feel his arrays being destroyed. "None of you are getting out of here alive," Jiang Yi screamed like a madman. This cut off any hope he had of ascending to the super god level. He should have reached that level 600 years ago. But for various reasons, he was forced to wait another 6 centuries. He had even come close to death because of the delay. Now, just as he was on the verge of success, someone ruined it all. Jiang Yi's eyes burned with murderous intent. "I'll refine you into a blood corpse. I'll imprison your soul so you'll never find peace." I didn't say a word. Instead, I answered him with my purple pearl god lightning. With a deafening roar, the blood array on the island began to crumble. Jiang Yi was consumed by rage. Holding the pearl demon sword, he charged out from the sea of lightning. In an instant, he was right in front of me. His clothes were torn. His skin was covered in scorch marks. Clearly, the sea of lightning had taken a toll on him. But it wasn't enough to stop him. Still, I wasn't afraid. I summoned my undead army. Then, the Skeleton King descended. Soul skill, focus. I activated the skill. My attributes instantly surged to their peak. At the same time, I inherited all the skills of my summons. All damage reduced by 99%. I completed a series of actions in an instant. It all happened in less than half a second. Die! Jiang Yi roared savagely. The pearl demon sword ripped through space with a screech. The pitch-black sword light seemed ready to swallow me whole. I didn't try to dodge. With a soul lock, dodging is impossible anyway. A bolt of purple pearl god lightning shot out from the tower. It struck Jiang Yi dead on. I had locked onto Jiang Yi's soul as well. By trading blows like this, that I would be swallowed by the sword light. That while Jiang Yi would be swallowed by the lightning. But the pearl god lightning was earth-shattering. It echoed through Fortress 9. This strike was far more powerful than the last. Large sections of buildings in Fortress 9 collapsed. Many houses were silently obliterated in the flash of lightning. Not a single trace was left. Jiang Yi was blasted away. His body was covered in wounds. But he only became more frenzied. "Trade blows with me. Who the hell do you think you are, you level 77 piece of trash?" Before the voice even faded, a flash of sword light struck him. The Skeleton King had made his move. At the same time, the undead army launched a dense barrage of attacks on him in an instant. The sky suddenly turned black. The projection of the undead world descended. The gates of the undead opened, and the eye of the undead rose, wreathed in blazing flames. It stared down Jiang Yi, who let out a piercing scream. A soul attack. Red light flashed as a curse descended. Then, flames erupted all over his body. Lightning began to rain down on him. Simultaneously, Jiang Yi's face turned a sickly green. A poison attack. Jiang Yi cried out in disbelief. Elemental liches began to appear one after another. One aura after another descended, with every single attack landing on Jiang Yi. While being turned into a human torch, Jiang Yi also had to endure the lightning strikes. On top of that, he was poisoned as the lightning continued to pour down. Thousands of bolts struck every second without a moment's pause. Although the individual bolts weren't that powerful, but they were still a massive headache for Jiang Yi. Jiang Yi was beyond shocked. He was practically losing his mind. Then came the physical attacks. He probably really wanted to ask, "Is there anything you can't do? Have you ever faced an opponent like this?" I flew out from the sword light. I have absolute defense and damage transfer. I wasn't hurt at all. Jiang Yi's pupils contracted sharply. How is this possible, he thought. Even if Lin Moyu could block my attack, he shouldn't be completely unscathed. "You're too weak," I said coldly. I said this partly as an exaggeration and partly as the truth. To be fair, Jiang Yi isn't weak. Having already stepped onto the threshold of the half-step super god realm. That how could he be weak? But compared to the Dragon Emperor, that he really is weak. Before Jiang Yi could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by a barrage of attacks. Jiang Yi roared and charged through the storm of attacks. He swung his demon-slaying sword once again. Sword light flared, filling the void around me. 10,000 swords. Demon slaying. Jiang Yi shouted coldly. He finally used a skill. The 9 pairs of astral rings in Jiang Yi's hands exploded simultaneously. As a divine swordsman, normally, his basic attacks are enough to crush his enemies. But now, he has no choice but to use his skills. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to deal with me. 10,000 sharp swords shot toward me at once. It seemed he wanted to turn me into a pincushion. I still didn't dodge. My absolute defense skill was still active. With that skill, I wasn't afraid of this attack. Even the Dragon Emperor would struggle to hurt me, let alone 10,000 sharp swords raining down on me with nowhere to hide. Jiang Yi sneered, "I'll tear you to pieces." I pointed my finger at Jiang Yi. The ancient thunder outer tower fired another pearl god lightning. The lightning struck first, despite being fired later. With a loud boom, it exploded on Jiang Yi, sending him flying. It was as if an invisible shield surrounded me. This shield swallowed all 10,000 swords, leaving nothing behind. Thanks to the damage reduction from absolute defense, I remained completely unharmed. To me, a level 98 half-step super god is much weaker than the Dragon Emperor. Besides, human bodies aren't nearly as durable as those of the dragon race. The Pearl God Lightning was incredibly effective. Jiang Yi was hit even harder this time, leaving him disheveled and pathetic. Again he roared in fury, "How did you manage this? Why? Why is this happening? Why?" This scene felt familiar. Not long ago, the Dragon Emperor was the same. If you won't believe anything, then don't believe at all. I won't explain. The focus skill time has run out. No souls to replenish it. It can only last 14 seconds, and that's because I reached level 7. After forming the soul skill, focus lasts longer as my soul grows stronger. Of course, with plenty of enemies around. I keep killing and harvesting souls. Kill and harvest without stopping, and focus can be maintained indefinitely. Jiang suddenly sensed my aura change. He seemed to realize something. "I see, so you used a special technique. Now you're dead." He raised his sword and charged again, certain he could kill me this time. I retreated sharply and swiftly. The Undead Legion blocked in front of me. "It's useless. Just this trash. Can't stop me," Jiang Yi roared. The Demon Pearl sword traced countless shadows across the sky. Sword energy flew everywhere inside the fortress. They quickly reformed in the summoning space. I relied on the Undead Legion to hold Jiang Yi back. I pointed out again, and the 5th Pearl God lightning blasted forth. My face instantly turned deathly pale. Splitting my soul 5 times had reached its limit. I couldn't keep going. If I split it again, it would damage my soul. But I still pressed on regardless. Bolts of Pearl God lightning shot out from the ancient thunder tower. As I used it more and more, I grew more and more skilled. But my complexion kept getting worse. I knew it was fine. Jiang Yi was being held back by my Undead Legion, and relentlessly bombarded by the Pearl God lightning. Could hurt him too. Kill one group, and another huge one took its place. Jiang Yi was furious. 2 more pairs of star rings on his wrist exploded at once. Sword Chi Wall, Sword Chi Swamp. Each pair of star rings represented a skill, perfect for dealing with the Undead Legion. Even the Dullahan's group defense couldn't hold. Only the Skeleton King held on with his absolute defense. The Skeleton King fought his way to Jiang Yi. His bone greatsword swung. "Back off." Jiang Yi lashed out with a fierce sword strike. The sword energy carried a streak of crimson. "No use. The gap's too big. All your summons are dead. Now it's your turn." Jiang Yi's voice rang out. Another pair of star rings exploded open. This was already the 4th. First sword, Heaven Slayer. A terrifying giant sword appeared in the sky. The sword came down, and the world went dark. The sky split open like a curtain, revealing a massive gash. I didn't summon my Undead Legion this time. I kept them all inside the summoning space instead. I braced myself and took the sword energy head-on. I was knocked back several meters, then struck out again. Jiang Yi's sword Chi Wall was still intact. The Pearl God Lightning didn't manage to hurt him. My Undead Legion in the summoning space was wiped out a 2nd time. Then came the 3rd time. I didn't pay it any mind. Flames flickered in my hand. Channeling the Undead's gaze, I launched a soul attack against Jiang Yi. The Undead Lich stayed behind me the whole time. The Undead aura gleamed and shone. It waited for death to strike again. Even he was affected by it. The pain cut straight through his soul. It only drove him crazier. But this was nothing. When he saw I still wasn't dead, he completely lost his mind. "Why won't you die? Why?" Jiang Yi had never faced anything like this before. The 5th and 6th star rings exploded one after another. An incredibly powerful force completely swallowed me up. For a moment, every single attack seemed to just disappear. In the sword light, Even my shadow had vanished. Jiang Yi burst out laughing. Dead. You're dead now. No one can stop the moon from reopening the blood. Blood of my race, help me. Blood of my race, help me. I will become a god. I will become the master of the world. Truly immortal. He laughed more and more maniacally. The sound shook the entire fortress, making it boom and rumble. His expression shifted. His gaze swept the area. But there was no trace of me anywhere. He never fights without certainty. But I hadn't dodged or avoided a single blow. He knew that for sure. By all logic, I should have been dead. He laughed for a good 10 seconds. Then he turned his gaze to Meng Anwen outside the fortress. His eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty gleam. Next is you, he said. You just said you wanted to become the master of the world. Truly immortal and indestructible. Seems like you're not quite there yet. You can still be killed, can't you? A voice suddenly rang out. He went completely rigid, frozen on the spot. He spun around sharply. I had somehow already appeared right behind him. My clothes looked exactly the same as before. The only difference was that my face had regained its color. Even Antares would call this a monstrous talent. I died and came back to life. All my skill cooldowns reset. I knew I had bet correctly. I could use my talent almost without limit. Just seconds ago, I had completed my rebirth. It happened almost instantly. I stayed hidden and didn't show myself right away. I didn't come out immediately. The full rebirth cooldown was still ticking. So I had to stall a little longer. In less than 20 seconds, the full rebirth's cooldown had already passed 3. I knew the characteristics of full rebirth and clenched my fist. I could finally have a good fight. Jiang Yi stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. How are you still alive? Jiang Yi's face twisted. I sneered. Not necessarily you. Impossible. Our soul clan only has. The star ring exploded with a deafening blast. A terrifying presence appeared in the sky. Swords rained down like a storm. The sword dominated heaven and earth. The Spirit King appeared. He stood up from the throne as if coming back to life. I could only continue to defend. I kept wielding my sword. Within the sword, I returned to life. But the skill was enough to keep me safe for the full 14 seconds. A full third of the comprehensive rebirth talent duration had already passed. The remaining 2/3 wouldn't be a problem either. He let the sword chi blast against his body. At the same time, I struck Jiang Yi with Pearl God Lightning one after another. Still using the same tactic of trading wounds. I didn't need any technique. I just went at it with brute force. After learning what the comprehensive rebirth talent could do, I had no more reservations. When my soul couldn't take it anymore. More than a minute had passed since I last activated the talent. I just needed to die once, and that would do it. I hadn't summoned the Undead Legion before. Summoning it now would be basically begging for death. But as long as he didn't say it, no one would know. I struck out slowly, one after another. Jiang Yi's sword wall was getting weaker and weaker, until it was about to disappear completely. At the same time, I caught a slip in Jiang Yi's words. He said he was a soul cultivator. I knew what the Soul Clan really was. But this clan seemed to possess an undying ability. I did not know if I myself could be immortal. This great battle had gone on long enough. I had already taken complete control. I gave Meng Anwen a look, and he understood instantly. Meng Anwen immediately exerted full control over the Eternal City. As long as we did not let Jiang Yi escape, I was 100% certain I could kill him. Unless he had something like the Dragon Emperor. And pulled out a super god tier artifact. Jiang Yi's sword aura wall finally broke. He got blasted again by the Pearl God Lightning. His injuries piled up. In his frenzy, he erupted with everything he had. He blew up the remaining 2 pairs of star rings in one desperate move. Those last 2 star rings held the most terrifying power. When it came down to it, this was a fight to the death. Go to hell. Jiang Yi howled in his final frenzy. Blood burst from his entire body. He turned into a blood-colored streak. Like lightning, it shot straight at me. My expression barely flickered. This strike was monstrous. Jiang Yi was already giving it everything. Even if I did not move. On the surface, he seemed completely insane. My full rebirth talent's cooldown wasn't finished yet. I didn't know if I could hold on. If I kept attacking at full force without restraint. That was when my heart stirred. Skeleton Legion descends now. It blocked right in front of me. This sword, it didn't get through. A level 98 super god level existence. Not to be messed with. Really not to be messed with. A massive eruption followed, overwhelming and unstoppable. It was crushing. I moved as fast as I could. I pulled back just in time. He still wouldn't give up. He refused to believe it. Jiang Yi roared. You think you can run? The ground shattered and exploded into ruin around us. The sword's temperature and speed suddenly spiked. Jiang Yi abandoned his physical body. I thought back to over 600 years ago, although I fell. Back then I was still weak and didn't understand much. He tried to escape. Something swift as lightning stabbed into my brow. It also fell from the sky. Within the soul world, I saw a strange-looking creature, long and thin. It kept twisting. It was kind of disgusting. Your power is stronger than that waste, Jiangyi. I will devour your soul. Everything new here was mine now. He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. 2 divine cores and 2 divine thrones. My own soul still looked normal enough. But what was that 9-colored divine dragon doing wrapped around my soul? And why were there 2 towers in my soul's hands? Legendary grade towers, the Xinxia Tower and the Demon Extermination Tower. 5 skill star cores glowed brightly. Some of them had Jiangyi inside. 2 of those star cores in particular were anything but ordinary. They spun so fast, I felt like my soul was being pulled into them. He was trembling. He felt like he had made a terrible mistake. This was not a place he was meant to be. My soul opened its eyes. A voice thundered through the entire soul world. They asked if this was really my true form, here in my own soul world. Jiangyi stepped inside. Jiangyi is here. Now that he's stepped inside, there's no way he's leaving. The gates to the soul world slammed shut. It's too late to escape. Jiangyi was trembling, his body shaking like a noodle. Your soul. Why is your soul so strong? I sneered. I'm only level 77. Isn't it? Jiangyi whispered. That should know that. But you defy all common sense. A level 77 professional. That's impossible. No, wait, it is possible. Jiangyi suddenly realized something and blurted it out. You're not from this world. You came from the outside too. I paused, my eyes flickering. After a moment of silence, I spoke in a low voice. How did you know? Jiangyi chuckled. I guessed right, didn't I? Just tell me, what race are you from? Is it any of your business? You're just a failure of the Soul Clan. What right do you have to question me? You should know the consequences of killing me. My gaze turned cold as I stared at Jiangyi. Jiangyi looked completely smug. It seemed like he was truly afraid of me. A few seconds later, I sighed softly. Killing you would be too easy. But I'll seal you, making it impossible for you to ever break free for lifetimes to come. I'll lock you in the Pearl God Fortress. I'll make sure the intensity is just right. I'll guarantee you won't die. As I spoke, I raised the lightning tower. It looked terrifying. My eyes also took on a bloodthirsty look. Jiangyi was indeed terrified and shouted. You can't imprison me. I'd rather kill myself than live like that. I replied, then go ahead and kill yourself. Jiangyi was left speechless. He was desperate to survive. A powerhouse of the Soul Clan. That would never actually want to die. I thought about it for a moment. It's not impossible for me to let you go. But you have to agree to a few conditions. Hope rose in Jiangyi's eyes. What conditions? I slowly began to explain. First, you must never be an enemy of the human race again. Jiangyi nodded immediately. I'll go to the deep continent, Jiangyi replied. I know you want to become the master of the world and become immortal. Actually, I wanted that too, but something went wrong when I arrived. When I woke up, some of my memories were gone. As I spoke, I kept a close eye on every single reaction from Jiangyi. I was afraid I might have said something wrong. I didn't want to alert him, but to Jiangyi, it looked like I was just being cautious. Jiangyi said, every race has its own unique ways. And my race's methods won't work on you. I nodded and replied, you have a point. Tell me, if you were to reach this super god level, what would you do next? I'd like to use it as a reference. Then Jiangyi said, I would find a way to. He suddenly stopped, and then he shouted, you're lying to me. You aren't from. Another world. You're actually from this world. On the surface, I remained calm. I remember when I was in the outer world. The true god realm. Descended here. Stop acting. You simply don't understand. But let me tell you, unless you have the means, don't even think about finding out. He seemed incredibly excited. He was shocked, wasn't he? His soul body reached out and gently touched it. The 9-colored treasure of the dragon race. Since Jiangyi comes from the outside world, he must be able to recognize it. He looked at me. His tone sounded a bit strange. Although Jiangyi only glanced at it and hid his reaction well, he definitely noticed something. His eyes unconsciously drifted until Jiangyi's laughter came to a sudden halt. He looked completely shocked. He thought he had hidden everything, but his reaction gave him away. It confirmed exactly what I suspected. I knew I wouldn't be able to get any more information out of him. Fine, then just die. Jiangyi's soul let out a blood-curdling scream. The pain of a soul attack is far worse than any physical injury. And the god-slaying lightning transformed into purple pearls, unleashing a devastating wave of energy. No matter how powerful a soul is, it can still be destroyed. And Jiangyi's soul was far too fragile. He might have been strong before, but facing the god-slaying lightning, he was utterly defenseless. 3 consecutive strikes. I completely devoured him, leaving Jiang Yi screaming in pain within the sea of lightning. You'll regret this. My soul clan will never let you get away with this. We'll refine you into a puppet. You'll never be reincarnated. I shook my head. We can worry about the future later. My eyes were filled with killing intent. I was determined to kill him. I wouldn't let him go. The god-slaying lightning can not only destroy, but it can also grind down the soul. Jiang Yi's soul was severely damaged. But suddenly it erupted. A red light broke through my defenses and vanished without a trace. The remaining soul fragments exploded, sending a wave of blood-red soul energy everywhere. It didn't have any effect. The Shushi rock leveled up. It glowed brightly, jumping from level 7 straight to level 9. The soul energy it provided was also quite impressive. I was just a step away, and now I finally crossed that threshold. For me, this meant a massive boost in combat power. But this harvest also brought more worries. I know that Jiang Yi and his clan have many spies, lurking in every corner of the world. They might have even possessed other people. The fact that there's no way to tell them apart is a real headache. I finally let out a sigh of relief. I turned to Meng Anwen and said, "Teacher, it's over." Meng Anwen asked, "Is Jiang Yi dead?" I nodded. "Yeah, let's close the Eternal Great Wall." Meng Anwen nodded. The blood arrays were still active, but Bai Yuan and the others were already destroying them. With no one left to stop them, all 999 blood arrays would soon be wiped out. Meng Anwen controlled the Xinxia Tower, sending beams of light down upon the blood arrays of Fortress 9. Fortress 9 was completely devastated. Only the walls remained relatively intact. That's only because they were protected by the Eternal Great Wall. It'll take a lot of time. Meng Anwen looked at me and whispered, "He's not a god, is he?" I nodded. "He's definitely not." Meng Anwen pointed toward the sky. "He came from the outside world." I nodded again. "Yes, he claims to be from the Soul Clan. His soul looks like some kind of worm. It's a bit gross, but his soul is incredibly powerful, much stronger than any human of the same level. He must belong to a race that evolves through their souls." Meng Anwen's expression turned solemn. "Are there others like him?" That was exactly what both he and I were worried about. I couldn't be sure. I tried to get some information out of him, but I didn't succeed. He ended up self-detonating his soul. Nothing was left. "Antares," I called out. "I'll leave things here to you." He nodded. "Go on, we'll handle the cleanup here." When the blood array was activated, many awakened were caught in the crossfire. Many were injured. Meng Anwen and the others needed to stay and manage the situation. To ensure everything was under control, I then activated Antares' dragon scale. I looked at him. My eyes clearly showed my suspicion. And right now, I don't want to sleep. I flew right in front of Antares. "You're avoiding me," I said. Antares turned his head. What is there for this dragon to avoid? It was obvious he was feeling guilty. "Then I'll ask, and you answer." Antares replied, "This dragon answers only when he wants to. And when I don't think you can trick it out of me." I didn't really care. Why would this dragon tell you? Besides, were we even close back then? You. What am I even saying? This dragon doesn't just talk nonsense like you do. I quickly pressed him. "You were just thinking. Thought about how to answer my question, weren't you?" Of course I was. As soon as Antares spoke, he realized he'd messed up. "I get it now." I interrupted Antares. Antares looked frustrated. He glared at me. "Can you just have a normal conversation for once? Interrupting people is very rude." "You're such a good friend," I said. "Then what should we do?" "Wait, did you not actually do it?" "No, you did. We even helped you intercept its remnant soul. But do you have any idea how bad the consequences would be?" I was slightly stunned. I was surprised that Jiang Yi had kept a trump card like this. It looked like a self-destruction, but Jiang Yi's remnant soul had secretly escaped. His understanding of the Soul Clan and souls far exceeded mine. He must have a way to restore a remnant soul. Antares helped me again. He looked at me, knowing that I already understood. He gave Itsunder a huff. Then he turned his head and ignored me. I caught my breath. "Can you tell me about the Soul Clan?" "Apologize," Antares slowly uttered. He didn't actually refuse me. I really was anxious just now. I was indeed a bit angry. That sword wasn't aimed at Yi Hao, but at Bai Yuan. He could have escaped unscathed, and if something had happened, I would have regretted it. That's why I got a bit upset with Antares. But thinking about it now, it wasn't Antares' fault. I really had no right to be upset. We weren't even close back then. Antares still ignored me. I flew right in front of his eyes. Less than half a meter away, I bowed sincerely. "I'm sorry, great Antares. I was wrong this time. You're very generous. You wouldn't hold a grudge against me, right?" After I pestered him relentlessly, Antares finally showed his generosity and forgave me. Antares ultimately forgave me. Then a fist-sized bubble appeared in front of me. Inside the bubble was Jiang Yi's remnant soul. It looked very weak. He was already unconscious, completely out of it. Antares breathed out dragon breath. He casually toyed with the bubble. As the bubble tumbled, the remnant soul inside rolled along with it. But I could see pain on its face. I had no idea how long it would take to recover. And now with Antares messing around like this, it only grew weaker. I watched the bubble. I mourned for Jiang Yi for half a second. His remnant soul could scatter at any moment. Wiped out completely. He probably never imagined that he'd end up in Antares' hands. Antares spoke. Did you see what's inside that remnant soul? I nodded. Deep in the center of the remnant soul, there seemed to be a pebble. Wait, that wasn't a pebble. This was a Soul Clan soul core. A real Soul Clan soul core. Antares breathed a stream of dragon breath into the bubble. As it seeped into Jiang Yi's remnant soul, the soul twisted in agony. At the center, the core began to glow. The bubble lit up, faint at first, barely visible. Barely thumbnail-sized, even smaller than that. Antares spoke up and began explaining. Antares said, the soul race. Their weakness is too obvious. They don't have a physical body and need to possess one from another race. And their reputation is terrible. No other race likes them. I understood as soon as I thought about it. Who could like a race that spends all day thinking about abandoning their own body? The soul race is probably treated like rats in the streets that everyone wants to beat. Antares continued. They can regenerate, as long as their soul core is intact. They possess a body through soul possession and start cultivating all over again. Once they encounter a powerful physical body, the soul race can even become extremely powerful in a short time. I said, a race like this. From what I understand, no one would want to mess with them. This kind of race would have everyone on guard. If everyone has their eyes on you, you could even get ganged up on. Antares shook his head. They want to wipe them out, but they can't. Does the soul race have an invincible existence? I thought about it. How could that be possible? Antares spewed out dragon breath. Jiang Yi's soul showed pain again, trembling nonstop. Antares seemed to be enjoying himself. He was playing with that soul like it was a toy. He didn't care at all whether Jiang Yi lived or died. The Soul Clan does have some real powerhouses, but there are plenty of races stronger than the Soul Clan. The thing is, the Soul Clan is hard to kill. But after reaching the true God realm, the Soul Clan can split out a second soul core. And as their realm keeps improving, they can split out a third and a fourth one too. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. They hide their split soul cores away, the little bastards. God knows which corner they'll stash them in. If I miss even one core, they can resurrect and come back. I said, so that means the Soul Clan can't be completely wiped out? Antares shook his big head. That's not it either. It's just that killing them is really troublesome to beings who are truly powerful beyond imagination. As long as that ant doesn't crawl on them, they could not be bothered to make a move. The Soul Clan was clever too. They knew which races they could mess with and which they could not. I nodded to myself. To survive in a world filled with powerhouses, the Soul Clan must have their ways. But from what Antares said, I could also tell that the outside world was just as ruthless. Survival of the fittest. The principle that might makes right was crystal clear. I kept pressing. Jiang Yi once said he wanted to become the master of the world. He also said becoming a super god would make him immortal. Oh, is that so? Antares sounded skeptical. What our clan calls immortality usually means being able to split off a second soul and hide it somewhere no one can ever find. But that can only be done after reaching the true level. It seems this guy still has secrets. Let me study him. Antares stirred. The mist that always clung to his body began to surge, rolling across the sky and sea, blotting out the heavens and the sun. In almost the blink of an eye, it covered most of the core area. Even the flowing light in the sky was swallowed by the dense fog. Then I saw a massive dragon claw reach out from within the mist. The claw was enormous, easily spanning 100 miles. It was purple tinged with black, exuding a heavy, incomparably noble aura. Compared to the bubble that was only the size of an adult fist, it seemed utterly insignificant. A wisp of purple gold energy flew from the dragon claw and landed on the bubble. Soul search. A deafening voice rang out inside my soul. I felt my soul tremble violently. My whole body ached with unbearable pain. I was horrified. Antares is not targeting me, but I could still feel the threat from deep in my soul. I would have been completely powerless to resist. He had reached a level I could not even comprehend. The 9-colored dragon soul crystal breathed out a protective mist and shielded my soul. It was not that the crystal was flawed. It was just that Antares was too powerful, and my soul level was really just too low. I endured the piercing pain. I watched Antares' movements closely. His voice shook my very soul. He was roaring on purpose for me to hear. Antares was doing it deliberately. The soul search extracted information from the bubbles. The righteous soul was jolted awake by the soul search. I could hear. It was truly too miserable to put into words. Now he's being hunted down. This guy is really tragic. His whole life could really be written into history. After just a few seconds, the soul core exploded too. Jiang Yi was completely dead. The core area returned to normal. A sharp light flashed in my eyes. So that was it. No wonder he said that. How did I not notice before? It really is. Too bad. This guy's really pathetic. Talking to myself. Not happy with that, huh? So you're saying you're begging me? Two words popped into my mind. Despicable. The dragon and I just stared at each other again. After holding the stare for half a minute. Antares couldn't hold out and backed down. Fine, fine, with that eager look in your eyes. This venerable one will tell you. Antares gave himself an out. He jumped straight down. I chuckled. Lord Antares, your magnanimity is truly great. Of course. Antares went along with what I said. Based on this guy's memories. In deep space, there's a world core. After I become a super god, it felt like discovering a whole new world. Just from the name, it sounded like something incredible. Antares didn't beat around the bush and explained directly. A world core is what remains after a world dies. The one Jiang Yi found. That world core is just from a small world, not that powerful. It's still a pretty good thing to have. At least it's better than everything you've gotten so far. I couldn't believe it. Better than the 9-colored dragon soul crystal? Antares coughed twice. No comparison there. Even a dragon misspeaks. My bad. Anyway, just know it's a good thing. I chuckled. So what does it actually do? I asked. World cores have many uses. They're true god-tier items. They can be used to create divine-tier weapons. And to cultivate and comprehend laws and rules. This place, for you. Then you would have a chance to truly become the master of the world. Think about it. If you became the world's master, everyone in the world would be under your command. You could make them live or make them die. Even god-level existences, even transcendence, could not threaten you. I suddenly felt a creeping dread. My heart burned with desire. I desperately wanted to obtain it. But wanting the world core is not so simple. There is no shortage of guys after it. I had better prepare myself mentally. I felt my excitement rising inside. The world core is in deep space. Antares said mysteriously. I listened to Antares' words. His words reminded me that Bai Yuan once said something similar. The ancient battlefield was full of opportunities, but also dangers. Actually, the biggest gains he talked about came from the deep space. As for the upper and lower layers, there were naturally opportunities too, but nowhere near as much as the deep space. I said, my voice low. I can tell you this much. Some places there, even transcendence can fall. I'm serious. Not exaggerating at all. I grew even more curious. Then divine-level experts would die horribly. Like crispy noodles, one touch, and they shatter. Antares understood what I meant. You'll know when the time comes. I really can't explain it now. What I can tell you is that the deep space connects to the desolate land. Just this half sentence is enough. I knew very well how powerful the desolate beasts were. They were just cannon fodder. There was an even stronger hand behind them. That would be completely different. When I suddenly thought about it, the deep space became mysterious too. Antares chuckled. If you can't figure it out, then don't. That place, how should I put it? Anyway, it's too much trouble. I couldn't be bothered to think about it anymore. Forget it. I'm level 90 now. I'll just go there myself and take a look. Some things, no matter how much you think about them, are better seen with your own eyes. That was my plan. With the purple pearl god lightning, I'd be half a step into transcendence. At the very least, it would give me some means to protect myself. Saying that, I slowly closed my eyes. The calm, rippleless surface instantly erupted. Soul power surged wildly, invisible forces spreading across the ground and sky. A thunderous roar rang out. Moments later, the soul power quickly converged and finally returned to stillness within my body. Antares commented. That brat's soul was pure and flawless. With an extremely solid foundation. The 9-colored dragon soul crystal. Dragon Emperor is still quite impressive. Old man, look clearly. Antares' eyes, Antares' memories. It seemed to have stirred some old memories. I had already sunk into my own world, leveling up several times in a row. I had enough soul energy, enough soul skill stars. The soul skill space was vast, incredibly vast. Within that space, the star cores were all roughly the same size. But the power of the skill space grew greater. I already knew this. I wasn't surprised. Fortunately, my own soul layer was deep enough. Moving the skill star cores wasn't difficult at all. Soul energy transformed into countless tendrils, surrounding each skill star core, and slowly dragging it out of the skill space. It went smoothly, within half a day, heading toward the soul layer. Not long after, I was thrown into the soul space. Soul energy burst out instantly. The living energy in the old star core. After the living energy went through 9 cycles, I already had plenty of experience. How to merge it, to what extent. There was no special technique to it. And Terry stared at me, completely dumbfounded. And Terry's asked if I'd lost my mind. I said no, just kill me 4 times. After 2 seconds, seeing Anteri still hadn't moved, I urged him again. Can you be more direct? Antares cursed and finally took the bait. He let out a low shout, and a surge of power fell from the sky onto me. The Undead Legion in my summoning space all died at once. Then they rapidly resurrected within the summoning space. Antares held back, keeping his attacks measured. It was roughly level 98 power. Not quite half-step, transcendent god level. 3 more times, I said, 3 more to go. Antares seemed to realize what I was up to. Every 2 seconds, he launched the 2nd and 3rd attacks. 4th, stop. The soul I'd just exhausted instantly returned to its peak state. At this moment, the skill Stardust core was still active, still in the process of merging, and it was still shining bright. The soul energy I absorbed earlier was not reset by the comprehensive rebirth talent. I was overjoyed. My idea actually worked. I felt like I had discovered a whole new world. As long as I calculated the timing precisely and mastered the rhythm, I could push the skill fusion rate all the way to 100%. Thinking back on those skill star cores from before, what a waste. I could only blame myself for being so stupid. At the same time, I channeled soul energy into it. The skill star core grew brighter and brighter. The fusion rate kept climbing. I spoke again. 4 times. Antares now understood what I was about to do. Hee. No problem. 4 attacks. 4 attacks. My soul energy was abundant once more. Its brightness had reached its peak. It had already become like the sun. My skill star core wasn't just glowing. It was also scorching hot, making my soul space, which had never known warmth, feel warm. My soul was speaking to me. My mouth unconsciously voiced the words. Antares was utterly shocked when he heard this. What did you say? Antares shouted. I said, my skill star core seems to have turned into a sun. But Antares understood. This meant 100% fusion rate. At least the level a half-step supergod could reach. I was only level 79, just level 79. My talent was too monstrous. It had completely absorbed all the soul energy. The brilliantly bright skill star core burst open. My entire soul space was covered in blinding light. Even I, the owner of this space, couldn't see anything at all for a moment. Massive energy rebounded to me, and my soul level instantly improved. Because I'd consumed all my soul energy twice in a row, and the 3rd time consumed over half as well. Too much energy had built up in my skill star core. Raising my soul level just a little was nowhere near enough to consume it. The 9-color dragon soul crystal suddenly perked up. It opened wide and sucked in every bit of soul energy, then spat it back out after purifying and refining it. The soul energy became much purer. This soul energy spread throughout my soul space. It actually made my soul space expand rapidly. After a moment, the bright light faded. I saw my soul world again. It had grown bigger. My soul space was already pretty packed before. There was a whole bunch of stuff crammed in there. But now that my soul space had expanded, the distance between everything increased. So nothing felt cramped anymore. Then I spotted a new visitor in my soul space. A massive fireball was blazing fiercely in my soul. The skill star cores from before were orbiting around it. It really turned into a sun, I murmured to myself. Seeing this, I remembered the planets I had seen in my past life. Some planets just orbit around a star. Those are called planets, and the sun is a star. I checked its properties. Summon undead wings, fly at 10,000 meters per second. If I burn additional soul power, I can push it even further. It could increase my flight speed with no upper limit. It wasn't an attack skill or a defense skill. That same lowest level lightning undead. After the skill fusion rate hit 100%, its lightning attribute was stripped away. It transformed into the undead wings, its attribute becoming much purer. Now it perfectly matched the Necromancer class, with 0 cost, which was already a solid stat. If I thought that wasn't fast enough, if I still wasn't satisfied. At first glance, this stat didn't seem like much. But looking closer, it was actually kind of broken, which meant the stronger my soul became. The faster I could fly, no upper limit. Whether I was chasing an enemy or running for my life. It was an excellent choice. Then I heard Antares' voice. He asked, how did it go? What skill did you end up with? What's the fusion rate? He pressed. I walked him through the skill from the start. How I could use both skills simultaneously. Summoning the undead wings. A pair of bone wings, white as jade, unfurled behind me. They blazed with silver-white undead flames. Gone was the lightning from before. Now these were bone wings worthy of a true necromancer. Antares noticed the flying skill. Isn't that a good thing? Antares asked. Not bad exactly, just a bit underwhelming. The truly strong ones move at incredible speeds. 10,000 meters per second is nothing, I said. I can consume soul power to increase my flying speed. Antares was unconvinced. How fast can it get? I didn't know either. Let me try? I flew outside. His ability let him see across every layer of space. My speed was nothing at all to him. But for me, 10,000 meters per second was already faster than the ancient rock. Now that ancient rock wouldn't be able to mock me. After I got used to the skill's speed, I started trying to accelerate with soul power. With a flicker of intent, soul power surged, then drained away in an instant. Then with a whoosh, I vanished. Antares, who had been totally bored, suddenly perked up. I had actually disappeared from his sight. Antares stared with his dragon eyes. Rather, I had cut off Antares' soul lock entirely. Antares found me again. But a second ago, I had genuinely broken free from his soul lock. Antares knew my strength. He knew what I was capable of. No one should have been able to do it. Even in the last era, even the true gods couldn't manage it. In that moment of acceleration, it felt like a blade had severed the connection. How fast was I moving? Antares didn't care. To him, I was crawling like a turtle. But cutting a soul lock was on another level. What a broken skill. Antares muttered to himself. That brat's skills are anything but normal. Using a skill like this just to run away. It was practically divine. I hung in midair. Shock was all over my face. Just now, in that single second. The state I was in was beyond words. It was as if time had stopped. I aimed at Antares and called out to him. Antares. Antares, I'll use all my strength. Help me. The speed was too fast. I was afraid I was worried, so I left it to Antares. I knew Antares would agree. I had already activated the skill. I disappeared from Antares' soul lock again. When he locked onto me again, a full 10 seconds had passed. I reached the other end of the upper space. A repulsive force pushed against me from the surrounding space. At this moment, I looked somewhat weakened. My soul power was almost completely drained. But I was excited. In less than 10 seconds, Even I couldn't begin to calculate that distance. But it must have been thousands of kilometers. Only Antares would know the exact number. Before I could speak, a tremendous force struck me. The world spun around me. I found myself back at Antares' side. Antares grunted when I asked about his speed. It's decent, about 2,000 kilometers per second. So fast, I exclaimed. If I were in a lower spatial layer, I could cross the wind thunder sea in a single second. But my soul power is too weak. I can only maintain top speed for about 10 seconds. Speed isn't the main point, Antares said. Not speed? Then what is it? I asked. Antares said, you might not realize it, but this skill's greatest use is cutting off the soul lock others have placed on you. How could I not be excited? When enemies are chasing you down, you won't have to worry about their speed. When they try to lock onto your soul to hunt you, you can activate it instantly. It counters soul locks of any level. That's the trump card against the ancient gods. It's incredibly useful. I added to what Antares was saying. This skill isn't used much day to day, but during battle, it's essential. I used it to dodge those soul locking skills. It was great. When others couldn't lock onto me, the battle got exciting. Antares said I spoke well, but that required extremely precise control. He asked if I was sure I could do it, clearly doubting me. My skills only needed the tiniest trace of soul power to suddenly fly tens of thousands of meters. During battle, flying that far was almost like retreating. I wasn't worried. If I couldn't do it, I'd just practice more. Antares asked if I had any objections. There was only one path to take. I felt something had changed. I happily agreed. I looked into the soul space. Among all the skills, the star core burned the hottest. Like a blazing flame. It gave off a warm, gentle breath. My skill cores were like planets, orbiting endlessly around it. Antares looked and saw. The fusion rate was 100%. Just one step from sublimation, I asked. It can still go higher? It can, but you're still lacking. Antares cut me off before I could finish. I didn't argue either. It really was still too early. Antares looked around and said, your soul space. It's already approaching the half-step super god level. Not bad at all. Almost like. It was Antares, no question. I didn't dwell on it. I started leveling up and commanding the undead.